Yes.
Is Ryan
On.
on?
Yes.
Okay, Ryan is online. Josh
You gotta
is not.
shut your,
I don't think.
You gotta shut it, just shut it off. She'll handle it.
better? Thank you. Okay.
One,
you're all
two.
set, John.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I didn't think it was me. Is Josh joining us online?
No.
Josh
He's
is
not. He's away.
on a plane.
Oh, okay.
Ryan has his hand
Yeah,
up.
Ryan is online, so you can recognize him.
Ryan, you got your hand up?
Have you opened the meeting yet?
Not yet.
Let's open up the meeting.
Why don't you open the meeting and then I'll go.
Okay. Okay, this is a meeting of the Wellfleet Selectboard, Tuesday, March 31st, 2026. The time is now 6:04 p.m. And as customary, we will start with announcements and public comments. Public comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker. The board will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised solely during announcements and public comments. I just want to mention, too, that we have 2 public hearings, so if anybody has comments related to either marina fees, the marina dock issue, or the short-term rental issue, you may want to wait until those items come up, but that's up to you. I'm going to start by recognizing Ryan has an announcement.
Yes, thank you. So just for everybody's awareness, I'm participating remotely. Still, my doctor's orders kind of remain unchanged until I have a follow-up, where I'm not supposed to, be upright for more than 30 minutes at a time. So I just want people to be aware of that. And then the other issue, it's kind of complicated. The tenor of some of the conversation around Maurice's is really unproductive right now. We have people coming to Maurice's meetings saying, that we're bullying them or lying to them, or that our members are lying on, what the results of the community engagement process was that we did for the master plan. And that's not really appropriate. There's also people that are, posting on Facebook about certain members alluding to personal financial interest in the property, which is just not the case whatsoever. I think everybody just needs to take a breath, and we can discuss this civilly. But some of this conversation has really become fairly toxic, and some of that is just Facebook kind of tends to have that effect on certain conversations. So I just want people to kind of take a breath, and we can talk through the project. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Does anyone else on the board have any announcements? Town administration?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then we'll start with anybody in the room.
Chris Merle here. I'm going to read a letter that we sent in. Back to what Ryan was just saying, I would just like to say that I don't have Facebook and have not participated in any negative stuff. I do my stuff in person, not over the email. Anyways, the letter is, Dear members of the Wellfleet Select Board, we are writing to express our strong opposition to the proposed high-density housing development at Maurice's campground. The town purchase of Maurice's was widely supported by voters, based on a clear and shared understanding that this property would be used thoughtfully to address Wellfleet's housing needs in a manner consistent with the character of the community. Specifically, the intention was to create housing opportunities for local residents, local workers, and seasonal workers with a strong emphasis on affordability and opportunities for home ownership. The scale and density of the current proposed project appear to contradict both the spirit and expectations under which voters approved the acquisition. Approving a development of this size and intensity at that location raises serious concerns about infrastructure, environmental impact, neighborhood character, and long-term community sustainability. In addition, the proposal includes restrictions that would significantly limit the town's ability to maintain local control over the property moving forward. In light of the fact that accepting state funding will mandate occupancy requirements, this proposal limits our ability to prioritize local residents, workers, and families, and instead places that authority in the hands of the state. This is a critical concern and runs counter to the reason many voters supported the purchase in the first place. Moving forward with a plan that diminishes that control undermines the very purpose of the acquisition. It is difficult to reconcile how a project of this magnitude, combined with reduced local control, aligns with the original intent to pursue balanced, community-focused housing solutions. Instead, this proposal represents a departure from what residents were led to believe would be a measured and locally beneficial use of the land. We respectfully urge the selectmen to reconsider the direction of this project and to refocus on a plan that prioritizes housing for local residents and workforce, a majority of truly affordable units, opportunities for home ownership, development that is appropriately scaled to the site and surrounding community, preservation of local control over the property and its long-term use. Wellfleet is a unique and sensitive environment, both socially and environmentally, and decisions of this magnitude should reflect the values and commitments made to its residents. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'd just like to say that submitted were 373 residents, and we've actually got more now since then. And I would like to reiterate, this is not doing what we're trying to do is not to try to rip the community apart. It's just trying to say that this isn't what is going to work for the local residents. And the scale of it is just too large. So thank you very much. I'm hoping that you guys will take the viewpoints that were raised in here and the people who signed it and take it seriously and try to do something with the Maurices and hopefully forward it to them. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else in the room? Seeing none, online I believe we have John Schuster.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. This is John Schuster, 400 Lieutenant Island Road. Have just a couple questions, and one is, what is the date for the open meeting of the Select Board and the MPC? Remember, there was the first joint working meeting, which was closed, but the plan was to have a second meeting where public comments would be welcome. And so I'm just following up on that. I would like to get the date out there so that we can all put it on our calendar. I was also wanted to follow up. I'm wondering what is the status of the of restarting the stakeholders group. That's something that was talked about quite a bit. Not sure where that stands, but there is a feeling, some sense of urgency that should be started up as soon as possible. And I just want to close by, speaking to what Ryan Curley just said. I think it would be really helpful. Part of the solution, or part of the reason that maybe there's some unproductive or angry comment or whatever, is that there's a lot of people who feel like their voices aren't being heard, or the things they ask about aren't being addressed and responded to. So people are using the only avenues that are open to them. And I think that the solution would again, just be like the open meetings where people can freely come and put their concerns out and have them be addressed in an honest and straightforward way, so that they don't come away feeling marginalized and shut out of the process. Thank you all very much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kurt Felix has his hand up.
Who?
Kurt.
Kurt Felix.
Okay, Kurt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment following up on what Chris had to say a little bit. I noticed that there's a $225,000 line item in the long-term capital plan, and it's flat funded for the next 5 years for Maurice's campground. And I'm just kind of surprised that an item of that magnitude would be in there, based on the idea that, in fact, at the end of the day, this project ordinarily would be going over to a developer. And the town's invested $6 million in the first instance to acquire the property under the premise that largely the costs to maintain and to hold the property would be generated by the incomes that are coming from the property prior to the town acquiring it. It now looks like something's changed dramatically, and at $250,000 a year over the next 5 years, we're now looking at over $1 million additional investment on the part of the town for Maurice's, and there's no line items associated with that. In most of the other categories within the budget, they're very clear line items that are spelled out that are associated with that expense. And so there's, within the finance plan that's going to be presented jointly but with the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee coming up here in a couple of days now, I would hope that there's much more transparency about what those line items are, and that the public starts to get a much better handle, or at least an information flow on how much money is going into this project and for what. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kurt. Rebecca, anybody?
It's Ryan Curley again.
Well, I
Just very
don't
shortly.
want to get into a back and forth on
I
that
know,
issue.
I'm not going to, just very shortly. So Tom reached out to me a few times about the funding for this coming year, and we don't need any. So we don't need any additional funds for this coming fiscal year for Maurice's. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Brian. Anybody else?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, anyone else in the room, last minute? Okay, seeing none, then we'll jump right into the public hearing. Item A, approval of the short-term rental bylaw to be inserted into the annual Springtown meeting warrant. So I'm now going to declare the public hearing open on this item, and we'll start with who's going to start with this. Tom?
Do we want to have Ann?
I'm sorry.
Is Ann Chippenhouse going to be?
She's here.
She's here.
Yep.
Ann could come up. Howdy.
Sorry, I'm late.
Nope, you're not.
Get a kid from.
You're not. You're-
Yeah, so I think this is the third time together
Yep.
going over this fabulous STR bylaw. And we made the changes from the last time, and I think it's a good document. I think if people have comments, they're more than welcome, I guess. You're in
Yeah.
charge of that. I don't really have anything else to add to it. I think we've revised it down based on public comment, your comments as a board, and made it a good, clean document to move forward with.
Can I think, before we proceed, I'm going to start with any comments or questions on the board. Just wanted to mention that one of the big points people seem to raise had to do with the number of persons per bedroom. And just to clarify, and you can tell me if I'm mistaken here, but this is not a limitation on how many persons per bedroom, but how many persons per how many bedrooms per septic. So if you have a 5-bedroom septic and you have 3 bedrooms, you can have more than 2 people in a bedroom. It's all tied into the long-standing limitations on individual septic systems. I'd further like to clarify, because this may come up, the number of persons per bedroom, from what I've seen in the 16 years I've lived here and the 70-plus years that I've come up here, people don't rent homes out on the basis of the number of people that are going to occupy it. They rent it out on the number of bedrooms and the space. So if somebody renting a house for $5,000 a week, it's not going to matter if it's a couple staying there or 2 families. So this shouldn't have any economic impact in that sense. With that, I'll go to the board if anybody has any questions or comments. I don't see anything up there. In that case, I'll open it up to the public. Come on up. We'll start within the room.
Matt Rosenberg, Spring Valley Road. Would love to talk to you about the economics of short-term rentals. You're not correct that it has nothing to do with occupancy. But I'm here because I want to put something on the record before this goes to the town meeting, because the voters who are going to be asked to ratify it deserve to know what hasn't been done before the board passed it. You said it's going to have no economic impact. You have not done an economic impact study. The occupancy formula in this bylaw, 2 per bedroom, and the language I believe actually did say 2 per bedroom, imposes for the first time in Wellfleet's history a short-term rental occupancy cap. There was no regulation before, and by Member Yeston's observation at the last hearing, there have been few to no notable problems over generations of Wellfleet being largely a tourist economy. So the question is, what problem are we solving with this? Wellfleet has 955 short-term rentals. Looking at this in economic terms, reducing the number of people that they can collectively hold is bad for owners. It's bad for the town's excise tax collections. It's bad for the broader local economy. I'm not asking anybody to care about owners' incomes. That's our problem. But just care about the town's. The number of lost visitors in 955 rentals and a 12-week season is unknown, but it isn't trivial. And the impacts on the town's excise tax collections and sales tax collections won't be trivial either. This board made a decision with obvious economic knock-on effects without doing any economic impact analysis to quantify them. If a third of the 955 rental properties lose 2 guests for half the season, that's roughly 5,000 fewer visitors. If most properties feel the constraint through most of the peak season, you're looking at potentially up to 20,000 lost visitors. What's the accurate number? The honest answer is, I don't know, but the honest answer is you don't know either. But the voters should know before ratifying a law that could do their town economic damage. The Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism puts average visitor spending on Cape Cod at $556 per person per trip. That's not my number, that's state data. Apply that to the low end of my estimate, and you're talking about $2.8 million less for the Wellfleet economy every summer. Apply it to the high end, you're at $11 million. This is millions of dollars not spent in Wellfleet restaurants, not spent on fishing charters, not spent on groceries and seafood and T-shirts and ice cream and everything else that local businesses sell to tourists. Maximizing summer revenue is everything for those businesses. It's what carries them for the rest of the year. Fewer visitors means less summer sales. Less summer sales have consequences that show up in lost jobs and lower wages. It affects whether a business even makes it through the next following season. Then there's the town's own revenue. Wellfleet collects a 6% local rooms tax on short-term rental income. That's currently, I think, about $1.6 million a year. A 15 to 20% reduction in rental income from the occupancy restraint, which is, in fact, what academic research says is the effect of lower capacity, implies somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 in lost annual excise tax revenue. Could it be less if the market adjusts? Could it be more if bookings fall further than I expect? We don't know. No one's modeled it. And whatever the town loses in excise tax is going to have to come from somewhere, most likely property taxes, which you guys will wind up raising, and that affects every tax-paying resident. What are the actual numbers? What are the mitigations? Who's going to get hit hardest? I don't know, and you don't know, because you haven't researched it, you haven't really discussed it, and, except for Chairman Wolf's comment at the start of this public hearing. Wellfleet Select Boards have a long history of acting on gut and good intentions, but without sufficient information to have a solid idea of the impact of their actions. When I first appeared here in December, I said that you had the chance to make a really solid law, but without studying the effects of it, you're heading towards another economic unforced error. Again, I'm saying that I don't know the numbers, but every voter in the town meeting who's asked to ratify this should want to know what those numbers are, and you'll not be able to tell them with any certainty how much this bylaw will contract the town's primary economic engine, and it will by some non-trivial amount. How are they supposed to make a decision responsibly when you guys haven't? Please do an economic impact study before you pass this. Thank you.
Is there anyone online? I would like to quickly respond to that. I still do not buy the notion that somebody rents out a given home of a given size and tailors the rent to the number of people who are coming up to rent. I don't want to get into a back and forth on this. There are other people who wish to speak. The statute itself, as revised, reads, "An operator shall not advertise or allow occupancy of a short-term rental exceeding the capacity of the septic system serving the property. Maximum occupancy of a unit shall be determined by multiplying the number of bedrooms for which the system is permitted by 2. The size of a septic system in relation to the number of bedrooms is not set by the select board. It's set by the health department and I believe by the state. That's not something we can tamper with. It's something we have to obey. Now, am I going to pretend that people aren't going to violate that? Of course not. And we're not going to be sending out secret police to monitor how people adhere to this. The only way this is conceivably going to be enforced is if there are obvious violations and it's brought to the attention of the town, say by a neighbor or somebody. But for us to not set this in a town statute would be irresponsible.
Add one sentence, please.
Okay.
If, as you say, you are not planning to enforce it, why have it? Thank you.
So
Oh, it's not a question of whether we're planning to enforce it. It's a question of how it would be enforced. There are lots of laws on the books that can only be enforced when violations are observed. It's not a reason to not have the laws.
I think
Sir?
Barbara wanted to make a.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
I
Barbara.
guess, why don't we hear from the public first, and then I'll make some
Okay.
comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Sheila.
Hello, Dave Gavlik, 220 East Wind Circle.
You turn your mic toward you a little bit. Yeah, there you go.
So a couple observations on,
Sir, could you just, again, for the record, tell us who you are so we have it?
Yeah, because
I
it was
think I remember
quiet.
that. My name is David Gavlik. I'm
Thank
at
you, David.
220 East Wind Circle.
Okay.
So a couple things. In section 4.3, renewals, the way I read this text, it seems that some part of January is not available for rentals because last year's rental ends at the end of the year and you can't start until sometime in January to get the next year. So there's some number of weeks in January that are unavailable for renting, which I don't think is what you intend. But I recommend that wording get revised.
What was that? What was
4.3?
Renewals.
4.3, thank you.
4.4.3?
Yep.
In section 6.1, I believe that the reference to Article 1.1 is incorrect. I believe it's Article 9, Section 1. So I think you should check that. I'm not a lawyer, so I read that section, but I'm not exactly sure what it means.
I'm sorry, which section is this?
6.1. It refers to
Article 1.1, and you believe it should be 9.1? Is that what
9.1.
you?
Yes.
Thank you.
In an earlier draft of the document in section 7.3, there was a grandfather rule for people that had currently had more than the 2 rental properties. That seems to have been dropped from this latest draft. I don't own more than one. I own 1 property, so it doesn't impact me, but I would just ask you to reconsider that because if people do have an investment in multiple properties, you're kind of really impacting their finances by saying 2 is the limit. And then lastly, the last section, 8.6. To me, this is really a worrisome section because there's very strong penalty for violations, but it's unclear to me how this would be regulated, how violations would be determined, what the options are for people to appeal complaints. I'm concerned that violations can be created by tenants rather than owners, and then the owner is punished by the actions of the tenants, which I don't think is correct. So section 8.6 is very concerning to me, and I would ask the board to reconsider that section. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ann, is there anything you wanted to address regarding, I think his first item
This
was,
is not, I mean, we can comment or,
Let's see.
the first one was renewals.
oh,
So,
the
yeah, so
January.
so renewals, yeah, I understand that. It's going to be calendar year, and we'll probably open up the renewal before the end of the year. That's normally how you do it. We could update that language so that if you needed to renew in November for the 2027 rental season, you could do it at a certain time before then.
So I believe the current language says renewals begin in January.
Right.
So if it begins in January, that means there's some time in January where you wouldn't have a permit.
Okay, yep, understood on that one.
But that,
Could that be fixed?
yeah, I mean, I think it goes from the date to the date, right? I mean, when,
No, I wasn't, the way it's written, it's you get your rental and it's for a calendar year. It's not for April 1st from 2026 to April 1st, 2027,
okay, so it is for the whole, it's from January to December.
January to
Yeah, so
December.
we should probably open it up earlier than. don't
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
We can,
We can
that's
talk
not an
about that.
issue. I mean, that could be something where it opens up 90 days before the end of the year and you can start renewals.
Would
for
that address the issue?
Yes.
The second issue you raised was the issue of violations, and that does seem rather vague. Is there some way we can flesh that out so people know what?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely determine what level of 3 or more violations warrants action on the part of the,
And
Part of the town.
what consists of, where is it?
Yeah, what is the, so,
I'm sorry, what I was looking at was the excessive complaints, that's right. Verified by the appropriate town of Wellfleet board or official, so we maybe need to flesh that out so people actually know,
yeah, we could put something more specific in there about what level of violation,
and what avenues of appeal.
which to me would be, health, police, fire, that type of violation. Fighting.
And that violations could be appealed through whatever the proper channels are, we need to determine that, too.
Yeah, you need to have an appeal
if I could,
process.
if I
Yeah,
could just
yeah.
chime in here. So, the way I look at this is if there's a problem with the home itself, I rent this house and something's not working, or, I have a complaint, I would go to and that's really between the landlord and the person. I think this pertains to if you happen to rent, and sometimes you don't know, you think these people look very, responsible, and now there's parties going on every night, and they bring in loud music, and people are complaining, and the police have to go down there. Okay, those things happen, you're going to have to deal with those people. But if you're a renter who rents to that type a lot, and that, it seems like there's every new renter, there's a police call, then that would be something that would raise issues with the town. Otherwise, I look at this as a very personal matter between the landlord and the renter. And that's where the first complaint's going to go. It's outside of that relationship, thank you. That relationship, if it spills over into the community and it's a disturbance and it's continuous. And I have people, rent around me, and there's the first night or the second night, all the family comes down, they're all out there and having a great time all night and around a fire pit, and everybody's having a good time. God love them, okay, it's maybe I'm trying to get to sleep, but they're having a good time. And it's not every night, but that's the way it is here in the summer, and people are on vacation. We have to remember that. So there's a lot of room in these things, but we have to have things down. And as far as, and whatever doesn't shake out right, we're going to be evaluating this for the next year.
Yep.
So this is a learning curve for everybody. I think everybody should get a little relaxed. And let's see how it goes, and we'll say that was not correct, how we put that, let's change that, make it a little bit more this, or maybe stricter, who knows?
I guess the question for me would be who would be in charge of the appeals process?
I think if the police come to, we've gotten notice that there's been 3 calls to a house, I think that's when somebody comes, but you mean an appeal of?
From them, that's what he's asking for.
Well,
Is
an
if-
appeal, I don't think it's going to come to that. I think
Well,
the
it
first
could.
thing
We
is
have
if
to-
somebody has a problem with your property and they're renting it, that's between you and them, as far as I'm concerned. And the rest of it is, unless it's like, cesspools or, something, but this health agent would look at that.
Well, there are specific items. One could be health, another could be a noise complaint.
Well, that's
It
what I'm
could, it could be other violations of town bylaws. We have to have a process that people know and can see, and that's what we need to flesh out.
Yeah, so through
Barbara.
the chair, I mean, just generally speaking, there are a couple ways under different statutes to enforce bylaws, and usually the bylaw will refer to those statutes as to how a violation is addressed, and there's usually a table in the back of a bylaw that says who's responsible for bringing the enforcement action, and one way is you go to district court, another way is a non-criminal disposition. So there are appeals processes in place that we would just need to reference for enforcement. So we
Right.
don't need to set up a separate enforcement mechanism here. They exist in statute, so we can look at our other bylaws and how they're enforced and just tie it into those and the statutes for enforcement.
That's what I was saying, is
Yeah.
just spell it out so we know, so the people know. Like you
Yeah.
say,
Right, I'm sure there's
reference.
That, I'll
language.
just,
Yeah,
we can
just
find out either from KP Law what reference, or you
Right.
just put it in it so that it's stated there that that's the appeals process, which follows all the other appeal processes we have.
That would make sense to me.
Okay.
We have 3 hands up online, so I'd like to get to one of them.
Yeah, I can wait.
Rebecca is the first one. If you could identify yourself.
Hi, yes, it's Rebecca Hansen, 200 Gull Pond Road in Wellfleet. And I just wanted to comment that for us, we rent our place 2 months of the year, and our occupancy directly relates to how much rent we can charge. And our goal is we always try to rent right in the middle, price our place right in the middle of what the capacity is, neither high nor low. But in our situation, our house is set up like a 4-bedroom, but the septic is for 3. So currently, we have been renting up to, but no more than 8 people. And that's been really helpful for families that want to bring their children and their spouses. And oftentimes I've been asked, can you do more than that? We've just got another baby. And I always just say, no, that's the limit. So being able to present my house as a 3-bedroom versus a 4-bedroom will have a serious impact on who I can accommodate. The other part is that while we keep saying that, or it keeps being said that it's being tied to the septic needs of the town, our house is used by more than 2 people only 2 months a year. And that's not very much usage when you're considering that it's basically empty the rest of the time, and we use it ourselves, 2 people, 2 months out of the year. The other thing I have a question about is whether non-rental properties also have the same stipulation. Are non-rental properties also limited in terms of their occupancy? Houses that are used 12 months a year, are they mandated to only have occupancy due to whatever their septic system is? I don't know the answer to that. But thank you for hearing me, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. Anybody?
You have Kurt Felix and Suzanne Gray.
Okay. Kurt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of want to follow up on a little bit of Kurt Felix, and a little bit of what Rebecca had to say. When it comes to the septic, I think it's a red herring with respect to these regulations, in the sense that a year-round house at, let's say a 3-bedroom year-round house, that's a flow of 330 gallons a day. It's 120,450 gallons per year. So that's what the flow design is for that particular home. When it's rented for, let's just say it's rented for 12 weeks, not just 2 months of the summer, but somebody's pretty good at getting off-peak rentals in June or September, or something like that. But, not just a full solid. And that's assuming every single week, 8 weeks during the summer, and then 4 other weeks during the year. That house would be generating about 27,000 gallons for that time period, which represents 23% of the flow that's designed into the septic system. I think this is an issue that's also missed in our wastewater plan. DEP isn't quite recognizing that, and I think we have a larger septic burden built into the plan than our actual burden when you start to look at seasonal use. But seasonal use is something that's talked about a lot, and it's definitely something that you need to be considering when you're looking at this type of a bylaw, because the actual impact is not the same as a year-round home when it comes to septic. And the other thing, that there's 2 other provisions in here that really do bother me quite a bit. One is the grandfathering issue that was just talked about if you own more than 2. It just feels like there's a penalties, and don't take this personally, because I know you, and you've done a lot of very hard work on this, and so has the board and everybody else that's worked on this. But it feels very personal when you restrict somebody's ability to own a number of units arbitrarily, and it's not the same as somebody who owns a hotel or a cottage colony or something else. That particular part of it, I think, potentially leaves the town open, to litigation. Both the cap on the number of people and this idea that you can't own more than a certain number of units. I'm at the point now, just a short sidebar, and my wife's going to kill me for saying this publicly, but we're at the point where we have done rentals for quite some time, about 25 years or so, and we're beginning to feel like we are constantly looked at as villains in the in the sense that anybody who rents or anybody who's actually catering to the tourist industry is somehow bad, and the really most important need in our town is affordable housing. And these rental people are, crowding out our ability to have affordable housing. And I just want to say it's not an either or, absolutely not. And it's not, it's just not that situation. Okay. Tourists do drive our economic engine. The first speaker made that very clear in terms of his analysis. And we've got to start thinking more about protecting housing for tourists. Because in a situation like my wife's and I, when we sell our home,
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up soon.
Sure. When we're in the process, I didn't realize there was a 3-minute limit on public comment or comment during this type of thing. But in any event, we're in the middle of selling our home, and we rent to about 15 people throughout the season. And so when we sell our home, the very likely buyer is going to be a single-family homeowner who will use it as a vacation home. And 15 families that used to be summer tourists are not going to have a place to stay, and that's going to be replaced by one person. Those types of economic impacts are something that we really need to get our head wrapped around in terms of the global economic impact of what we're doing. And so I agree with the first speaker in terms of looking at economic impacts. They're significantly larger than the simple regulations that we're discussing at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. Let me go back online here. Ryan, you have your hand up?
Okay. It might have been from before.
Yes, sorry. I'm switching between the packet and the screen, so it takes me a second to find the microphone. I had a couple of comments. One is that Title V doesn't include any reference to the number of persons per bedroom. The number of persons per bedroom is set in the state sanitary code, and it's based off of the size of the bedroom itself. So if it's a larger bedroom under the state sanitary code, it could be occupied by more than 2 people. I'm still not comfortable with the expectation for a 24-hour contact person. I just think that's just it's really burdensome, and I don't really see how that necessarily is very helpful. And then the limit on the number of certificates that can be held. So for the certificates, each individual dwelling unit has to have its own individual certificate. That includes, last time we talked about the situation with cottage colonies. They would still only be allowed to have 2 certificates under this proposed bylaw, which is an issue. But I also know of some of the larger, older homes in Wellfleet. For instance, there's the moorings on Commercial Street. It's one large house, and then there's 3 separate cottages on the property, and each of those are would be considered individual dwelling units, and they are rented in the summer. I don't think that a limit of 2 is necessarily very productive. And the consequence of, last time we had talked about grandfathering in people, but the issue there is also that with the limitation on transference of the certificates, is that basically once a property was sold by the original owners that were grandfathered in, it would have to be broken up because the property wouldn't be able to have more than 2 certificates. And I think that's a real issue. So thank you.
Ann, could I ask you to weigh in on how we deal with that?
So there's about less than 3% of all the rentals are more than 2. So it's a small population, important population, but small. If you went up to 3, I can do it. It'll probably go down another % or 2. But there's not a lot that have 4 or more properties that they rent. Now, you can circumvent anything by putting things under different names. That's the workaround.
Okay, let me just finish. So, because the issue of grandfathering didn't appear to be written into the new
No,
regulation.
I didn't think that was part of the last discussion. That was removed.
I don't think that came up, but.
We didn't talk about a whole heck of a lot last time, so that we didn't get to this.
Yeah, well, that might be something we need to consider. If we don't have some kind of regulation in place going forward on, what's to stop these private equity funded investor groups from coming in and buying up housing and
Well, we do have some protection up above in 7.2, which is about corporate ownership.
oh, okay.
So we do
okay.
have that already in place. So
Right.
this is truly just what number you want to be at for limitations on number of short-term rentals. 2, 3, 4, it's up to you as a board.
Okay.
We can put whatever number you're comfortable with. If you hit 4, I don't think you're going to be eliminating very many people.
Right.
Yeah, I think by grandfathering people who have 3 in at this point is fine, and then in the future 2, and the reason these things are brought up is is people can, because now that there is a unbalanced income distribution or a financial distribution with some people could come in here and buy 3 houses and say, I'm going to buy these for my kids, and then rent them. And then those are 3 houses that will never come on the market to people who live here and maybe have been saving and could have maybe bought that house. So there is a reason for this, and it is trying to curtail some sense of community as well as recognizing that we are a tourist community and that we do have a visitor population, and the town, I think, works very hard to welcome that population. And so I don't think it's going to hurt that. But I do think that there is a reason for this. It may not be obvious right now, or especially anybody who has 4 homes. But it doesn't. It is to curtail the ability of some people, and they can exercise that.
We have 2, Barbara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we stay just on this subject
Yeah.
for a moment? So it looks like there's 2 decisions to make. What is the maximum number we want to set, and do we want to grandfather? And the grandfathering makes sense to me, but I have an open mind about that. And I also, I would raise the number, but Ann's given us some information, which is really useful, but I don't have a strong feeling about what that number should be. But if we're going to let's talk about this and make a decision on, I would suggest, just so then we can move on to other topics,
Okay.
if that's all right.
And I have, are we going to go back to the occupancy? I mean, that is the occupancy, so I
point.
have a question. So how is this worded in other, I did mean to get to another town's short-term rental, and I did not.
Yeah, well, there's only 2 right now that do +2 occupancy on the Cape. Everybody else, a lot are done through Board of Health, so they just go straight with Board of Health regulations. So Mr. Rosenberg said it before, it's Chatham and Orleans right now.
So
Dennis?
I don't know if it's Orleans, but Dennis is 2 + 2.
So, through the chair, then if that's the topic we're going to go back to, that's fine with me as well. I dispute this idea that we're doing this based on gut instinct or feeling. We're doing it based on the science, and specifically on the science underlying Title V and the Board of Health regulations, which is we need to limit the amount of nitrogen that goes into the water. Last week, someone said, or 2 weeks ago, we don't have a nitrogen problem. We know that's not the case. We do have a nitrogen problem. So we can certainly hear more comment on it, but I don't think we should be revisiting tonight the decision that we made, which is based on the science. And I understand there may be an economic impact, but I think our job is to, protect the groundwater first, because without that, we are not going to have those nice pristine ponds and other resources on which the tourist business depends. So I would prefer, that we not revisit that topic tonight, but of course it's up to my colleagues.
It's fine with me.
So then, just getting back to the number of units, this is a good discussion to have. I don't have a strong feeling about the number. I do favor grandfathering, but maybe my colleagues have thoughts on this.
Okay. There are 2 hands up that have been waiting a while, so I'm going to call on Suzanne Gray.
Suzanne?
Yes, sorry, I need to unmute. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you so much. I am interested to hear what the board decides on for 7.3, which is the multiple units, no more than 2 short-term units. That doesn't apply to me, but I do know other people that applies to. And a grandfathering might help. But, I do think that you need to be thoughtful around or mindful around potential litigation with that, because you're putting something into place after somebody's already invested in property, and then you're telling them that they can't use it as a short term. I'm not an attorney, but it's just food for thought. My other question is that I had an inspection done on I'm 10 Alicia Witherall Road, sorry for the record, I'm sorry about that, on my septic system, and it is for 516 gallons per day. I need 550 gallons per day, I believe, for a 5-bedroom. It was constructed for a 5-bedroom septic, but apparently it doesn't quite meet those guidelines now, 40 years after the septic was installed. So, do I have a 4.5 bedroom home as far as how many people, how many occupants it can be? And also my other question is, there's some people, it's not me, but have a large bedroom with 2 bunk beds in it. So, how are you going to deal with these kinds of issues? Is it going to be done on a case-by-case basis? Can I appeal and say, my septic is bigger than a 4-bedroom, so do you give me a little bit of extra leeway? Any comments on that?
I mean, to me, that would be an appeal. If we're going after what we've already discussed, which is based on septic, that would be an appeal
Probably to the health department.
to the health department. But we have a lawyer in town, so. you can-
Not the town's lawyer. That's a really interesting situation when a system that was installed but is no longer at that capacity. I would hope something in that case, which is probably pretty unusual, that you would start with the Board of Health, and that it wouldn't need to escalate.
Right.
But that is an interesting question. So,
As I said, this is our first year.
Right.
And we are open to changing this,
Yeah.
in the future. We're required to do this by law. So it's opened up a whole other layer of things. That's all I wanted to say.
What, from me to Barbara, what is your feeling about the potential liability issues regarding failure to
Litigation?
grandfather?
I don't see it opening us up to litigation. Ownership of property can be, the uses to which a property is put can be limited by all kinds of regulations. You're not guaranteed, the maximum income from a property that it could provide. Obviously, this is a question we would ask KP, so I don't want to sort of opine on it here when that's up to town council. I do know other towns do have these limits, including Truro, and that's a KP town.
And so does Eastham.
Yeah, so my guess is that this has been vetted through, KP Law, who's our town council. That's my guess. Upon reflection, I do not feel strongly about having a limit on the number of short-term rentals. So the property's owned, so I would throw that out there as, one end of the discussion.
We have covered the corporate issue.
Yes, but the corporate issue is covered, but the number of
Private dwellings.
units that one owner may offer as short-term rentals, limiting it. I'm saying I'm not wed to having any limit to that.
I'm not sure I am either. It seems somewhat unlikely that somebody's going to come along and buy 5 houses. But
Okay.
what do you think?
I can't really comment either way. I know what we already have seen from, what we know is existing. And there is some that are doing that, and a lot of them that own multiple houses are not year-rounders. It's just seasonal, which might be a family home, I don't know. I can take a deeper dive into it, but most towns, not all, but most are putting some limit, and it's really just what the one before is protecting, that you can't have an investment arm come in here and just buy properties to rent.
Right.
So be that,
Happens a lot.
S Corp, Del Mar Vacations, any of them, that they just can't come in and start buying up properties to rent.
Right. Yeah.
So-
So some limit does make some
Yeah,
sense.
so it's already, you're pretty well covered with the corporate ownership in 7.2. This is just something additional that we talked about. We can raise the number, we can eliminate it, it's really up to you.
But through
Well,
the chair.
yeah, yeah.
But is there, is Is there an issue with any individual owners having, more than 3 or 4 properties? Is it your sense that that's a detrimental effect?
Well, it's a detrimental effect to anybody who wants to buy year-round.
Okay.
Those
All right.
are off the market now. So if you
Right.
have an owner who's seasonal and owns
That's
5
why-
small starter homes, which
Okay.
they rent out, for the summer, we don't have that capability to bring it to our own community members who are looking for housing.
Okay, no, that's a good argument, I get that.
Mr. Chair, through you.
Yes.
If I may. So I want to make it clear that it's per dwelling unit, and more than one dwelling unit can be on an individual parcel. And that's, the case of cottage colonies that are still owned by a single entity. I know a lot of them have been condoized, but, there's still a number that haven't. It also, some of the older houses in Wellfleet, the example I gave is the Moorings. It's a single property, and there's 4 units there. And, it's not necessarily that people are buying, multiple properties and amalgamating them. I'm sure some people are doing that. But there's properties that exist today that are rented on a short-term basis where there are more dwelling units on the property than will be permitted to have a short-term rental certificate under this bylaw.
So you're suggesting that this should be grandfathered?
Grandfathered, but then you'd probably also want to have some provision around the transference of grandfathered certificates.
Exactly.
Because if, when a family goes to sell their property, they'll have to basically either, it makes it much more likely that it would be then broken up into smaller pieces. Because then the new owners would be limited to no more than whatever number we decide is the maximum.
I think that's an excellent suggestion.
Yeah, and all the realtors will know
Yeah.
who are representing the property.
I'd like to call on Tim Sayer. He's been waiting a while.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Tim Sayer. At the last meeting, it was suggested that you put a start date for this in of January of 2027, because this has to go to town meeting. And town meeting, there can be amendments made to it that could be passed. It could change the whole structure of it. And I believe Mr. Curley suggested that. And I don't see that anywhere in here in this, that it wouldn't start till January of 2027, all these new regulations. So I wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I recall
The
that.
other question I have,
Yeah, true, Tim, we talked about it, and then we didn't really ever get to language on it. What I had recommended is that effective date, but then also put language in saying that it's also effective for any rentals for 2027. Because if you're a rental owner, you're booking in 2026 for 2027. So to cover that.
Correct.
Effective 1/1/2027, and it also represents any rentals that are for the 2027 calendar year. So we can, we just didn't have time to talk about it last time. It was brought up and it got late, so.
okay, I just didn't want you to miss that because it does have to go to town meeting, and this may not pass at town meeting in the form that it's written in. You never know for sure, although it probably will, but, Now, my other question is, the National Park Service owns multiple short-term rentals inside the national park. Will they be required to meet all of these regulations also?
No, that's not in our
And
jurisdiction.
how is that?
I don't, as far as I know, we can't lay bylaws, or, I don't know, rules
don't know.
around.
I don't know about that.
Tom, would you know?
I think, well, we are to put things in place to help support and protect, and if that's what this is all about.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can limit what the federal government does with their properties. I would have to check that.
I know they inspect on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not part of that.
Okay, well, I just wanted to ask. All right, thank you very much for your time.
That's a good question.
Thank you. Kathleen Bacon, you have your hand up.
Good evening. Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Chair. For the record, Kathleen Bacon speaking. To Select Board members, Carboni's concern about limiting the number of short-term rentals a single individual can use. Towns across the Cape are limiting the number of short-term rentals, has a tool in the box for year-round sustainable community. The more short-term rentals a town has, the less year-round use and community that town is going to see. So I would urge the board to, go with the grandfathered thing, but I would also urge the board to consider limiting the amount of short-term rentals. I do believe there's concern in a neighborhood in South Wellfleet. I think it's the East Wind subdivision, where it's a very high-end subdivision off of Old Wharf Road, where people are coming in and buying property in this subdivision, LLCs, and it's no longer a neighborhood anymore. It's changed that neighborhood entirely. So I would strongly urge, putting a number on short-term rentals to reinstate what Ann Schiffenhaus has stated. I think you'll see a stronger year-round community if you do put a number on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, through the chair?
Yeah.
No, I find Kathleen and Ann's arguments very persuasive on that, so I think it does make sense to have some limits. So at some point, we should decide whether that's higher than 2 or not. I don't have a strong feeling about that, but just Kathleen's suggestion about a cap, an overall cap on the number of short-term rentals, just through the chair to Ann. Have we talked about that at all, or is that's a new subject? Okay.
Yeah.
That might be a separate discussion than this agenda item, actually.
I mean, I like the language of grandfathering existing and then going forward, putting a number.
A cap?
Yeah. Maybe 3. If everybody's not comfortable with 2, go to 3. That'll just, shrink the population that fits that category.
But through the chair, I mean, I think Ms. Bacon was also suggesting a cap on the number of short-term rentals altogether in Wellfleet.
I'm not sure about that. I think she meant ownership of numerous short-term rentals.
No, some they do have a cap where there's.
Yeah, some towns
You have to get your application in.
But I think that's a separate agenda item.
Yeah, I'm not sure if,
This is going to regulations on our short-term rentals as they exist. A cap on the overall number of them in town, that would seem to me to be a separate discussion.
I would, I don't know.
I think.
Maybe I would call, I think it could be part of this discussion, but maybe that's a next year discussion.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We do have to do something to get this on the warrant.
No, I agree, that's what I'm saying. I think it's something we could consider, maybe just not this year.
Before I
Are
go,
we, okay.
before I go back to online, is there anyone else in the room, especially who hasn't spoken yet to this? Or anyone who has spoken to it? Okay, seeing none, then Ms. Rogers Mounts.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering if there's any way that the towns can get together, because I know multiple towns have restrictions on certificates or rentals. And I'm seeing many owners buying houses in different towns to get around the restriction.
Interesting.
Say that again?
I was wondering if the towns have a way to be able to get together to limit the number of rental certificates the owners can have, not just, because I'm seeing more owners going to buying in different towns so that they can get more rentals.
So they're buying a
Oh,
house
yeah,
in
yeah,
Truro, they're buying a
right.
house here, they're buying a house in Eastham, they're gonna buy, maybe two in whatever.
Yeah, well-
And so that way they're bypassing,
I don't think
Limits.
that's not really something we can address here.
not
You know,
here, but it's not a bad.
No, but it's a discussion I
It's a
could have.
discussion. It's
I
a-
meet with the Outer Cape housing coordinators every quarter.
It's a interesting.
Yeah.
But that would be a big data lift
Yeah.
to go by owner
Oh,
and
yeah,
say.
it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah,
like.
That's
tracking
really,
every-
yeah.
But that's, that's not a bad idea at a future date, since we're just
It's
getting
something
started.
It may be
Huh?
something you want to bring up with your regional group.
Oh,
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
have that, yeah, good point. All right, there's one hand left. Kurt, you've had 2 bites at the apple already. Is there something new you're bringing to this? Otherwise, I'd like to close the public hearing and deliberate on the
Yes,
board.
thank you, Mr. Chair. No, it's specific to the number. And to Ryan's point, you're going back and forth on the number. And there are quite a few cottage colonies, several of which, at least a couple that I can think of, that exceed 5 units. Most of them, several of those that I can think of, don't have insulated units. They're not even year-round houses to begin with. They are dwellings. One of them in particular, if you didn't grandfather, they'd be out of business and they also wouldn't be able to sell. So that would be a severe economic hardship for that particular property owner. They only own one property. It's been in the family and been in Wellfleet since the 40s or 50s. It's not unusual, but I really do think you've got to figure out a way to protect people, with this dwelling cap or number that you've considered. So grandfathering would certainly deal with it, or this one's like 9 units. So, I can't think of, I know there are probably about 10 or 15 rentals like this that are cottage colonies. But you definitely want to be mindful of not significantly adversely economically impacting those folks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's something I think we can do. Do I
May 11th.
do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Brian, aye.
John, aye. Passes 4-0 with 1 absence. Okay, then on the board, going back just for a minute to the septic issue. The problem I have with not doing something is, do we just not do something and fly in the face of state regulations and our own health department, or how do we handle that?
Through the chair, do you mean at all, or do you mean just until 2027 when these regulations would go into effect?
Well, obviously when they go into effect.
Okay,
but-
I guess I didn't realize not doing this was on the table. I mean,
Oh, no.
Right, yeah, we don't have a choice.
Well,
I
there's
don't-
some people who feel that that it's too restrictive.
That's why it's,
And
on
it's
the
going to go
warrant.
to town meeting.
So
Right.
I think the select board can take the position it wants to take based on our concerns and our responsibilities. It can be debated at town meeting, and town meeting can vote. So, things get amended on town meeting floor.
That's true.
So, just my opinion, we go forward with this and whatever amendments we make tonight. It goes on the warrant, and then it's up to the voters.
Okay.
That's how I
I'm
see
open to
it.
some amendments having to do with the grandfather issue.
So through the chair, I have some proposed language that maybe we could start with, unless you have.
And Ryan has his hand up too, so.
So my suggestion is, just setting aside the number of units for a minute, that we state at the end, new sentence, this regulation shall not apply to properties used for short-term rentals prior to, then I'm just using date of town meeting, or May 11th, 2026.
Sounds good. Is that it, or is it also?
Well,
the
then
number
we
of
have to
going
talk about the
forward?
number. I'm going to let someone else talk about that.
Okay.
Ryan?
Yeah, I think if there's grandfathering, there has to be some provisions around transferring, particularly when I mean, right now, the transference of a certificate is prohibited under this draft bylaw. But particularly for properties, it's not such an issue if there's, like single-family homes on separate lots, but if there's more than a certain number of dwellings on a parcel already, and it's, one parcel, there needs to be some provisions around the transference of those certificates. And I also think that 2 is a little low in terms of the number of units. We can start at one point and walk it back if we have to. Right now, the town did adopt the 2 additional local options on short-term rentals. And one of them is, I believe it applies to if a single owner owns more than 3. The additional amount of funds is basically sent to the town through the DOR. And then that's currently in split between 2 different funds controlled by town meeting. That's the Affordable Housing Stabilization Fund and the Mixed Income Housing Stabilization Fund. So if we were to limit that, we could, expect to see a decrease in collections there. I kind of been hoping that because of these regulations, it would make it a little easier to identify these situations where there are, one property owner owning more than that number, because there are ways to get around it, and these regulations require that it has to be an individual person behind it, and that way we could actually increase those collections. And that could potentially be used for funding for housing that's not associated with the affordability level, at least the mixed income one. So, yeah.
I don't agree with that, only because if the goal is to make available housing stock when it becomes available, letting a person who already has 4 houses buy that house and they're going to pay a penalty isn't really solving, now we're going to try to build another house for someone who can afford it. I mean, that just seems like it doesn't make sense to me. And I don't think there's a problem with limiting it, and I think that we can grandfather, people who have 3 houses, and that from this point, whatever the date may be forward, you're not going to be able to. And I think that we can look at these long-term cottage colonies. I think we all know who they are and have seen them in town, and figure out how to grandfather them in, and then look at that transference. But I don't think we have to make this that complicated, and I think it's coming across more complicated than it is for people, and maybe that's just the way some of it's worded, but I think when it all shakes out, nobody's going to see any difference. Really, as far as you and your particular situation renting your home. I think that what we're really needing is to get that list established and get this sort of established so that we can change it and tailor it to where it works for everyone. But right now, we're already a year late, and we have to, and there's going to be a lot of talk. My question is, so say Ann or one of us look into this further and say, this really, I'd like to we can make that amendment at town, or offer that amendment even if we have that meeting. Usually we kind of go over everything. If somebody has a strong amendment and everyone agrees with it, we can offer that amendment at town meeting.
I think, it seems to me, as far as an amendment to limit the number, say, to 3, and to grandfather the ability of cottage colony to transfer their cottage colonies in the future.
We can look at that legally. and-
But I think we could do that tonight and get that on the warrant. So
So could I, through the chair, could I ask admin just when, do we have kind of a deadline for when we want to finalize articles to vote on them?
April 7th. Okay, it's on you.
You're going through the warrant on the
Okay.
7th, that's it.
Got it. So does that mean we really should make these decisions
Yes.
tonight? Okay.
Not right now, after this.
Okay, so per admin, we're
The-
going to be, go ahead.
I'm sorry, through the chair.
Yeah.
The only thing a way I could think of is we could submit the bylaw as however you folks decide to finish it up tonight. Present it on the warrant, and if something changes between now and May 11th, you can make an amendment on the floor
at town meeting.
to make the changes as necessary.
Exactly.
But relative to the article, we
should get this done
drop
tonight.
dead,
Yeah.
and we're a week beyond
That's my
the
feeling.
7th.
Ryan?
You're limited by what you can propose as amendments by the moderator. Certain amendments would be relatively easy to make, but other ones might be outside of the scope of the original article and not be permissible. So people should just keep that in mind. It's not just, I mean, obviously cottage colonies is one of them, but I mean, I keep going to this example of the moorings. It's the house, it's basically a complex that's from the 1800s. It has one large house and then three small cottages, all on a single parcel. It's not a cottage colony because it has the large house. There are these situations where, there's a pre-existing parcel that has more than one unit on it, or multiple units on it, that are rented on a short-term basis, and all held in common ownership. And we just need to be mindful of that as well.
So through the chair,
Yeah.
I think the language I proposed would accommodate that, because if those have been used effectively for short-term rentals, that's not what they were always called, but cottage colonies, those rentals. If it just says the regulations shall not apply to properties used for short-term rentals prior to May 11th, 2025, I think that's broad enough to cover the cottage colony situation for now.
They are really seasonal. Because
Right.
they're not really, those little cottages aren't insulated. They're not meant for year-round, and.
Right, but what we're trying to govern here is short-term rentals, right? And just trying to grandfather, just as a fairness issue, not just the cottage colonies, but I guess I thought maybe for other property owners, not necessarily a cottage colony.
Right, that have up to
That
three
do.
properties.
So, that's my stab at it. I'm not sure how to finesse it further for this particular example of cottage colonies, but I just don't know how much more wordsmithing there is to do.
I think some of the finessing can take place at town meeting.
Right, and let's, advise the council on that. So I would just because town administrators advise we need to come up with something. So that would be my proposed language, and, if it needs.
Could you go over it again?
Yeah, so it's just we still have to decide on the number, but my language to address the grandfathering issue would be a sentence at the end: this regulation shall not apply to properties used for short-term rentals prior to May 11th, 2026.
And I would say add to that, just set the number at 3.
Yeah.
Support that.
Let's set it at 3.
Okay.
All right, so
We'll
we're
hear-
making that as a formal amendment?
We did last time. I don't feel
Right.
strongly about it, but we could.
Well, why don't we? And then we,
Second.
okay, roll call
So-
vote?
Wait, so the
Oh.
amendments are to change, are we changing in the first sentence 2 dwelling units to 3? Okay, So I move to amend the draft bylaw to provide that an owner may register to operate only 3 dwelling units as short-term rentals. And then to add at the end of the section, this regulation shall not apply to properties used for short-term rentals prior to May 11th, 2026.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Ryan, I.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
And John, aye. Passes 4-0 with 1 absence.
Mr. Chair, I move that we close, are we done?
No, I had,
No,
I had,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
had one more
One more-
amendment
one more
that
item, one more
I'd like to make.
amendment. I apologize.
On item 8.6, excessive complaints, just to amend it to specify the
Means of enforcement?
the means of enforcement.
Verified by appropriate town board or
Right.
official. So maybe we should say
By the committee.
fire and safety or something like that?
Oh, you mean
Committee,
we're narrowing
department.
kind of the scope of the type of violations?
Well,
No, just
not-
specifying how would it be enforced and what the
I
avenues
mean,
for
what would,
appeal
how would
would
a
be.
complaint come through?
Let's see, that's through the chair. I mean, that's what's in these statutes.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
Right.
It involves issuing a citation, like any other bylaw, if someone
So you don't think we
violates-
need to specify the statute or anything?
Well, I would if I could remember it,
Right,
but
we
I
could
don't.
add that.
I know, I'm
So,
getting to find it.
right, so,
I can add it.
We can add it
but
to the,
just, yes, so I guess the motion would be something like to add language specifying
Applicable
the
statutes.
applicable statutes for enforcement, would be my suggestion.
And, yeah, okay. And, language outlining avenues for appeal.
Yeah, I'm just reading what it says right now in our
Okay.
code.
So that would go in the final warrant.
Yeah.
what does it say?
Yeah, it's, well, this parking violations, for all of the violations like zoning, construction, individuals must appeal their board, and I can't read the rest of it. So I'll look it up.
Yeah, shall be
Add it.
enforced by the committee or department of jurisdiction.
Yeah, I just, okay.
But it's
I
not,
think-
it's not just specifying who is authorized to enforce, who's usually, not a committee, it's usually a town official,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But the statutes under which the bylaw would be enforced, I mean, there's just a process where you have to issue citations, and then if the choice is to go
And
to
then there's an
district court, you
appeal
go
or
to district
whatever.
court. And that's where the enforcement happens. So we're not sort of inventing a new process, we're just referencing the same, we would be referencing the same statutes that other bylaws are, how they're enforced.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a KP question.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can add that in.
Okay, Ryan, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, I'd like to add a section, and it would be added as 7.4. Barbara, what was the date that you used?
I use May 11th, 2026, town meeting.
Okay.
Date.
And it would read something along the lines of 7.4, the rental certificates allowed as pre-existing certificates as of May 11th, 2026, right?
I want to question the date.
2026, on a single parcel held in common ownership may be transferred at the time of sale of the parcel. And that's just to cover those situations where, that's separating the single-family homes where if people sell them, they're subject to the limitation, and they would have to, and they couldn't, a new owner couldn't have more than a certain number of certificates. But if a, pre-existing property that has multiple units on it is sold, that property is still able to, function as a, for short-term rentals as a single property.
But through the chair, why is that necessary? I'm not disagreeing, but what is that? Is there a
Because the 8.1 revokes the certificates upon the transference of the property.
So I guess I read it differently. It says, a certificate of registration may be revoked, suspended, or not renewed for one of the following reasons. 8.1 property transfer, the subject property is transferred to a new owner who has not authorized the use of the property as a short-term rental. So I don't know, to me, that doesn't prohibit a transfer outright.
To someone who has authorized.
I don't think we should muck around
I
with
mean,
that.
the way I read it is the new owner has to apply
Right.
to become short-term rental.
Right. I
Yeah.
He's
don't,
saying if you do that, then it would not, if you bought a cottage colony
right.
as a new owner, you wouldn't be able to rent all 10. You'd only be able to rent
Oh,
3.
Okay.
Well,
Yes.
that all depends on what we put in that, for that specific property. I mean, that's like a specific.
A specific
I mean, he's
amendment.
just, he's
I
defending the
understand.
cottage colonies. If they do at some point want to sell, it's of a higher value incentive to them to be able to
Yes.
sell it as renting 10 versus renting 3.
Okay.
If we put the restriction on, if we keep the grandfather clause that allow, I don't know, the next generation, I don't know what you want to do.
Okay. But if it says the regulation does not apply to properties used for short-term rentals,
Well, let's,
I don't know.
so,
Sorry.
but doesn't, I mean, I guess, I don't object to what Ryan's saying, I'm just not sure we need it if it says this regulation doesn't apply to properties used for short-term rentals prior to the date, right? So if a cottage colony has been functioning, would it not be, as of
Right.
that date, would that?
Versus a new cottage colony would not,
Yes.
would be 3 because of this
Yeah.
restriction.
Right, if somebody came in and tried to
So
do
you're
that.
right.
Yeah, it is. The other thing I want to just state,
Yeah.
as far as the date is town meeting, but then, so say things have become changed on this, does that, if town meeting votes it there, does it go to a vote in the ballot?
This
If it's-
doesn't require a ballot.
This does not go to a
No, it's
ballot
just-
vote, okay, so it is the night of
Yeah,
town meeting, it would
right.
be in effect, okay.
But I like
That's-
May
I
11th
just
or
wanted-
town meeting in case we go late and we have to come back on the 12th.
Right, I mean,
Well,
if,
we could change the date to say at the, at the
We can amend it
conclusion of this
then.
town meeting or something. take
Or
effect.
the date of the election, or,
You
when
can
the
pick
rest
any
of it's
date, but
voted
Town
on.
meeting seems, it's,
Well, what she's saying is, what if we had 2 nights of town meeting, which we hope we don't want to, but we plan not to, but if it did, maybe we had to even postpone it for another snowstorm, or something like
Okay,
that.
Ryan's got his hand
yeah,
up.
so through the
Yeah,
chair, I mean, Ryan, if you feel strongly that my addition.
I do. The one thing you don't want is to have a bylaw that somebody is struggling to interpret different clauses and exactly what is allowed and not.
Okay,
We've seen that happen. I mean,
okay,
even just like, changes of building inspectors interpreting one section one way and then a new building inspector interpreting it differently. Where we can, if we can provide clarity, that is always helpful to whoever is tasked with enforcing these.
so I support that, so maybe through the chair, or maybe, do you want Ryan to make a motion, make this in the form of a motion to further amend the bylaw?
Yes.
So I move to amend, or further amend the short-term rental bylaw to add a section 7.4. I'm going to need help with the wording here. 7.4, that the certificates, can we say grandfathered in the bylaw or not, Barbara?
I think so.
Pre-existing.
All right, that would
Pre-existing,
simplify it.
Say
So the
pre-existing.
certificates grandfathered under 7.3 of this bylaw, may, on a single parcel held in common ownership, may be transferred at the time of the sale. of the said property.
So,
Instead of pre-existing, I mean, instead of grandfather, just say pre-existing, I think.
Pre-existing.
Yeah,
Pre-existing, that's fine.
Okay, I would second that.
okay. Sheila?
nothing.
Oh, okay. It's been seconded.
Yes.
A roll call vote.
Brian, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, aye. Passes 4-0 with one absence.
Did you go with that?
And Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
if I may, there was one other,
We already did.
and I know we had talked about it last time, and Mr. Sayer did bring it up, is the effective date.
Yes.
You know, I think we need to specify it for this bylaw.
Right.
I
Because
agree.
people already have rental contracts in place.
So we should say January.
Okay, so through the chair, I'm going to suggest maybe like a section 2.5, or Ann, if you want to find somewhere better, but
Okay.
like, whatever, section 2.1. This bylaw shall take effect January 1. 2027?
2.5 makes,
I don't know, I'm
Well,
just making that
2.1,
up.
yeah.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
2.1 makes sense.
Or what about just the limitation on occupancy?
What about it?
So we could put that at the end of like the limitation of occupancy, that's the sticky part for people. And have the rest of the bylaw take effect, and then just the limitation on occupancy with a new calendar year.
I would be in favor of the whole bylaw taking effect as of January 1, 2027, just because we know people have already have
Right.
contracts for this existing year. If you're suggesting that we put off applicability, or that we put off the occupancy limit further, I would not be in favor of that.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't suggesting
Okay,
that.
okay. So can't we just say bylaw shall take effect?
So let me try to word this again. So the question is do we want all the other clauses to take effect upon passage of the bylaw? And just have the occupancy take effect at the beginning of the calendar year? Or do we want to have the entire bylaw take effect at the beginning of the calendar year?
I would be in favor of the entire bylaw.
I don't know. I would be in favor of the provisions that can taking effect as of, unless, Ann, through the chair, Ann, is that an administrative difficulty? Yeah.
The only thing I would say with the bylaw taking effect is adding in the sentence that it's applicable to all rentals in 2027, because if people then sign in 2026, which is what I stated earlier, they
Right.
sign all their contracts before the end of this year, that wouldn't take effect.
Right,
Right.
we need it to say, as of May 11th, these are going to be the rules.
Correct.
Right? So, all right, I would be in favor of all provisions of the bylaw taking effect as of May 11th, 2026, except for section, whatever
At
that
the very
is,
end.
section, sorry,
Oh,
I
max
lost it.
occupancy, yeah.
Whatever occupancy limit is, which
It-
shall take effect January 1st, 2027.
That would be,
That would be my
5-1.
suggestion as well.
Okay, I agree
Okay.
with that.
Okay, does that need a motion? Do we need a motion?
Yes.
And, okay,
Yeah.
okay, so I move that,
And that language would cover if anybody signs a contract in 2026.
Right.
Or
that they're under-
2027.
For
Right.
2027, they're under the new max occupancy.
so maybe, I don't know, section 2, maybe we need to call this section 2.5 applicability, like that? Does that sound right? Okay, so 2.5 applicability, all right, this bylaw shall take effect on May 11th, 2026, with the exception of
section 5.1.
Section 5.1, occupancy, which shall take effect January 1st, 2027. That would be the
Is that a motion, Barbara?
Yeah, that is a motion, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Ryan, aye?
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
And John, aye. Passes 4-0 with one absence. And I guess now we'll just take a motion to,
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we close this hearing.
well, we already closed the hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman, for Ann, when you write that stuff up, send it to me and we'll send it up to AP.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
just
we
make
don't
sure the
need a
language is
motion
right.
yet to put this on the warrant?
No, you'll
We
do
just
that
did.
next Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I
Okay,
guess,
that's when we're doing all
All
of it.
right, I move to thank Ann for working on this with us.
Yes.
For her patience.
And I'll second that.
and thank everybody for coming out
Thank you.
to speak on this. At this point, we're now moving on to the public hearing item B, and I must recuse. This is the, to review, discuss, and vote on the marina fee schedules. As I have a boat at the marina and furthermore use that vessel to operate a charter service, I have to recuse. So I'm going to turn the gavel over to
Oh, yes.
Vice
Oh,
Chair.
Oh, thank you. I might have to use this on someone.
and go join Tomas in the computer room.
Do I just hit the table, or can I use it at my discretion?
My head's not there anymore.
All right. Okay, I would like to open up the public hearing to review and discuss the vote on the marina fee schedule, our schedules as proposed. And I believe that we have Mike Kavanaugh here to, I guess you're going to take the lead on this, Michael.
Sure. So what I'm proposing is the fee schedule that is in the packet. That fee schedule was voted on by the Marine Advisory Committee and passed unanimously. My recommendation was an 8% increase to the fees from last year and the year before. The Marine Advisory Committee deliberated and chose to go with a 10% increase based on all the challenges we have there. The Marine Advisory Committee also implemented basically a standardized 35% across the board increase from taxpayer to non-taxpayer fees because they weren't necessarily aligned appropriately. So the proposed fees for this coming season are 10% over last year's fees, and the 2024 fees. And I don't know if that's what I have.
Okay, so is there any, Mr. Guarino?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. This set of proposals has been vetted by the Marine Advisory Board and comes before you with the approval, I believe, of that board, at least by majority. In the interim period, while the Marine Advisory Board was working on those sets of fees, Mr. Ziemba came to my office 5 weeks ago, maybe, I'm going to say about that, with a set of proposed regs that ended up being vetted not only by myself, but I believe Mr. Ziemba had met with 1 or 2 select board members to go through this process with them too. My understanding is that the Marine Advisory Board has not completely vetted this particular set of proposals at this point. They have not?
No, I don't think it ever went front.
Okay. So what we have, I think this evening, is a proposal that was approved by the Marine Advisory Board to go forward for FY 27, or the 26 boating year, 27 fiscal year. And you have a very well thought set of regulations from Mr. Ziemba. Now, those don't necessarily, the numbers that he's proposed aren't necessarily numbers that the town would take. They would have to deliberate. The Marine Advisory Board would have to review, make recommendations to staff and then to the select board for their consideration. Not to upset Mr. Ziemba, my recommendation this year is to review the Marine Advisory Board's proposed fee structure, make adjustments to those if you feel that they need it, and task the MAB to work on the set that was provided that I think needs some modification, okay? And give them the opportunity to vet that with the harbor master and those folks that are proposing this and bring it back to us for the season next year. Because I do not think that the Marine Advisory Board has time to review this, the select board to hear it, and us getting it out to be billed.
Right, and it's a timing issue at this point.
But I just want to emphasize that the work that Mr. Ziemba does, whether we agree with the numbers per se or not, it was a substantial piece of work, and it needs to be reviewed by the Board of appropriate jurisdiction, but we don't have time to do that this year.
Okay, so before we let that open, I'd like to know if any of the select board members have any questions about what has been proposed by the Marina Advisory Board on this budget. Does anybody disagree with anything or question what has been submitted? Mr. Chair.
I'm not the chair.
I mean, excuse me,
You're the chair.
Mr. Administrator. I'm so used to
Just
that
a
guy
quick
sitting
question
beside
for
me.
Mike. Could you walk us through, or perhaps Mr. Aberdale with you, walk us through how we got to these numbers?
Yeah, what has changed or?
Yeah, so my original recommendation was 8%. We did not increase fees last year or the year before. So my thought process was factoring inflation at 2 years, that puts us at 6% behind. And so my suggestion incorporated a 2% above that just for, maintenance and the cost of everything going up. That was brought to the committee, and the committee deliberated on it, and actually was approved unanimously that we do a 10% increase, just to help with all the issues we have down there.
And does anybody on the Marina Advisory Committee want to? Okay,
I just have a question.
Okay.
If we just go to the first
Thank you.
line,
Yes.
bow tie under 16 feet, your 26 to 27 taxpayer, you call it, rate is a true 10%, okay? But your non-taxpayer rate is not 10%.
No, the non-taxpayer, it was voted on by the committee that the non-taxpayer is 35% of the taxpayer, a 35% increase.
Higher than that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That answered that. Thank you.
And actually, if I may, Ms. Chair?
Yes.
There is one section that I was reminded by members of the Marine Advisory Committee that is disproportionate, and that's Section C. And it's disproportionate because it's larger sizes than Section A, but priced the same. So I would like to propose that I took the average of Section B and Section D, that I adjust the 2025
Yep.
Yeah, 2025 fee by 23, I think that's 83, I'm sorry. I've
2383.
Yeah. And then add 10% to that for this year, which would be 2621, and then 35 additional for the non-taxpayer would be 3539.
So just to make sure I'm looking at the right one, you're saying, so what I'm looking at here is for the taxpayer under along the line of Section C is 2073, and that is now going to be increased because of this suggestion I see something in red, is
Yeah,
that's what's
yep,
been
yep.
added. So that would make that number, what would it make it again?
So that would make that number 2383. And the reasoning, Ms. Chair, is if you look at the boat sizes, Section C is priced the same as Section A,
I see.
and Section C is larger boat sizes. So averaging B and D puts us in the middle, which where Section C should most likely be. Those fees have, I don't know why they were like that. I think historically they've been like that for a while, where the A section and the C section matched. I'm not sure why that was done, so it was not discussed at the Marina Advisory Committee, so it depends on the Select Board whether they want to add that change or not.
So through the chair, so we're looking at under the FY 2027 rates for this season, on line C, it goes from 2280
To 2621.
and then for non-taxpayer, it's from 3,078 to 3539?
That's correct.
Okay. And then there's just roughly like a 30, non-taxpayers pay approximately a third more in the fees than
35%.
35%. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm opening this up. Does anybody want to discuss these things? Joe, I see your hand, and I'm open to anyone, and I will see Mr. Zambur, and I'll recognize everyone. Come on up, Joe.
Good evening, Joe Aberdale, Marine Advisory Committee Chair, and thank you for your service to our town.
Right into the mic, Joe. Please.
I'm sorry?
Right into the mic.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'll lower it a little bit.
Okay.
Thanks. There are two issues regarding this matter. There's the actual fees, and there's the process that was used. The makeup of the Marine Advisory Committee consists of a balance of commercial and non-commercial boaters. The town's charge to the committee, and I quote, "The committee shall study and make recommendations to the harbor master and to the select board on marina finances." The 24 years that I've been on the committee, the harbor master and committee have engaged in a smooth collaborative process, doing an in-depth analysis of all the facets of the various fee schedules that have been proposed. Select boards have been complimentary of the work and the process and the results. In February, the committee started the process of getting public input on the initial proposal for the fee schedule. On March 5th, the Marina Advisory Committee entertained the marina fee schedule proposal before you. It was presented at a publicly posted meeting so that users of the marina, including commercial and non-commercial boaters and members of the public, had ample opportunity and time to evaluate the fee proposal and participate in a full discussion with all views being allowed to be heard. Unknown to the committee, sometime after the public meeting, the author of the alternative fee schedule presented his proposal to the town administrator and one select board member. Recently, we learned this only by chance, as town government never notified the committee.
I take exception, but we'll
When I
do that at the
finish,
end.
please. The town's aforementioned fee schedule, long-standing process as required by the select board, for the first time was allowed to be circumvented, and town administration placed it on tonight's agenda. This has never happened before and sets a very troubling precedent. Why have a committee who puts the usual time and work into the matter when the process is allowed to be circumvented as committee members feel about this matter. The fee schedule presented by the harbor master and the committee is fair and reasonable. I recommend you approve it.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to comment on, yes, please identify yourself.
Thank you. John, I'll give you an opportunity before I speak to explain how it came to attention. You were telling us that we were notified. I'm David Stamatis. I'm the Marina Advisory Vice Chair.
Okay. Nice to meet you.
President of
I'm going to speak to Mr. Aberdale.
Oh, I thought you were just
outside
going
the
to bring it up
meeting.
in a public meeting.
No, I'm going to talk to
All
Mr.
right.
Aberdale outside the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Good evening, members of the Board of Selectmen. I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Again, my name is David Stamatis. I run a business in this community for 20 years, lobster, commercial fishing, finfish, and charter captain. So I just want to go on to talk about my concerns regarding this recent proposal for the changes to the marina fee schedule, which were put forth by an unauthorized party, a commercial fisherman in our community. First, I want to acknowledge the important work that the Marina Advisory Committee has done managing the marina and ensuring that its needs for all boaters and recreational and commercial are met and heard. The MAC has already conducted public meetings and reached a consensus on the new fee schedule that reflects market values and consideration in the interest of the community. However, the recent proposal to alter these fees and to determine establish governance and demand and decision-making process that we have in place, it undermines them. Decisions about our marina should be made transparently and through the appropriate channels, which include input from the MAC, the community members who rely on these facilities. By circumventing this process, we risk eroding the trust of our local governance and setting the concerned precedents for our future decision-making. Moreover, I want to pay attention to the legal framework that governs public bodies. Massachusetts open meeting law requires that public meetings and bodies must conduct openly and adequately notice and provide them to the public. The proposal in question was made without adherence to these laws, which is troubling for our community's democratic process, in my opinion. Additionally, we must consider the potential conflicts of interest that arise when an individual who has a vested interest in the marina proposes changes that could directly benefit them. This is not just about fair pricing, it's about ensuring that all voices in our community are heard and considered. The impact of the unauthorized changes by the local boaters cannot be understated. Our marina is a vital resource to both recreational and commercial users, and the decisions regarding fees should reflect a balanced approach that serves the entire community, not just the interests of a single entity. Therefore, I just respectfully urge that the Select Board uphold the authority of the Marina Advisory Committee. Previously, it agreed upon fee schedules that were voted and unanimously approved and brought for recommendation to Mike. It's crucial that we adhere to the proper public meeting protocols for the future proposals. I also encourage the selectmen to facilitate community engagement and important decisions to ensure that stakeholders have a voice in shaping the future of our marina. It's important that I say that one of the problems that occur is when we go through all of this effort, we gave the public incredible time and commitment to this process. We listened to the individual that brought this forward to you, as well as several other commercial fishermen and recreational boaters alike. We try and impart all of our knowledge and wisdom and help guide Mike to the decisions that he needs to make to present it to you. I just ask that we continue to make that process as fair as it's been in the past, and that we don't take opportunities to bring people like myself and Mr. Aberdale up to the mic to have to explain protocol when it comes to how we're supposed to deal with this on a yearly basis. We volunteer, and we work hard to do it, and I just want to make sure that you guys understand that we're not here because we don't care. We're here because we care about the community, but we want to give everybody an equal opportunity. not just one party. And I'm a commercial fisherman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stamatis. Yes, come on up.
Hi, Dave Zimba here. Just a few corrections real quick on the packet. Your math was pretty good, Mike, thank you. But the bow tie was not $140 a foot, so the actual percentages should be 63% increase for the recreational boaters, 79% for the tax or non-taxpayers, 53% increase for the 165-foot rate would be the average, not 90%. And it would be 63%, not 79%. The $75 per foot, I suggested a 40-foot minimum. This was in the updated version that I provided from email today. Provincetown was not mentioned either in the comparison, and they are $250 per foot with a 40-foot minimum for recreational boats. I did not do this in bias for the commercial fishermen. I simply put out what is Rock Harbor charging, what is Provincetown, and I put us right in the middle. And if anything I did, I was lighter with the recreational community because their numbers should have been about $155 per foot, right through the board. I suggested 140 and stopped it at 30 feet, just to, give some leniency there, because this is a big increase. The fisherman rate, that is, again, done exactly between Provincetown's highest rate, I might add, at $120 annually, and Rock Harbor, lowest rate at $30. So you put it right in between, that's $75 a foot annually. You can't just charge a small vessel that. That's too much of a gap in between there. You're giving a big break. That's why I put a 40-foot minimum there, and I also put in $20 a foot for the seasonal rate. So effectively, a smaller vessel would be paying $90 a foot. Now, again, if you go back to the two different harbors that are most relevant here, that is severely above market value. Despite what they have told you, we are severely above market value for our commercial rate. That's just a fact. The math shows it in the difference, okay? We are severely under market value with the recreational boaters. They should be in the neighborhood of between $155 and $165 a foot. We are leaving tons of money on the table. And I'm not coming to you saying that, oh, I just want to break. No, there's no actual break here for the fishermen. I highlighted amenities in there specifically for this reason because, again, year-round vessel, it would be seeing a break. But if you added the amenities, there is no break there. So I'm simply separating the services and making it more logical. This whole fee schedule thing was just done with math. No emotion here, all right? I came up with these numbers based upon the nearest harbors around us. And furthermore, I would not have to done this thing if our voices were actually listened to during these meetings. We go there time and time again and beat our head against the wall, giving logical suggestions that at times even the harbor master agrees, but because it's us doing it, it's not put forward. And that to me is against the whole, what a board's supposed to be. They're supposed to be suggestive, correct? They're not supposed to be coming up with these things for themselves. But that's all that gets put forward is what they come up with. Never any of our suggestions are ever put into this. And that is today why I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let somebody else speak. Thank you.
How you doing?
Good.
William Barrio. I'm on the Harbor Committee as well. I did look at the proposed fee schedule that somebody gave us. I do agree that we are leaving a lot of stuff left on the table that we could be, internally revenuing the harbor for upgrades and, making more functionality. I agree that there should be more thought into it as well, considering that it's an enterprise fund. And a lot of people in the town don't even realize that's an enterprise fund. They think it's part of the town. So that's why the enterprise fund is always running in a deficit. I would also like to think that we could look into actually making it part of the town, because right now we have to pay, overrides to do maintenance down there instead of it going in front of the town where most people think that it is the part of the town.
Right.
And I feel like we should look into reconfiguring the entire harbor itself.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any, Joe, was there anybody else that before Joe that wanted to come up? Did you want to say something? Yes, please. Just a minute. I'll have you up in a second, Joe. I just want to give her a chance.
Bob Hussey, I've been a user down in Marina, I guess 43 or so years chartering. I would ask the board to take the proposal by the harbor master and adopt it as a fee increase this year. It's unfortunate that we're up against the 11th hour right now, being a month away from, scheduled opening. I would also ask the board to have the town administrator work to have any fee increases for the next year to start to be addressed in October, so we could probably have this finalized by January and not be in the same position we're in now. But I wholeheartedly agree with the 10% increase across the board that's been presented. That's all.
Okay, Joe, is there anybody online before I go to Joe? No?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Dawn and then Doug Strauss.
Dawn? Dawn, could you give your full name and?
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Don Gillis of 90 Harrison Street. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. I'm a Wellfleet resident, and I do use the marina. I've done it for a number of years. I have a boat that's almost 30 years old, small little boat. And let me just say that I think that the job that the harbor master is doing and the advisory committee has been outstanding in this last period of time, and really taking into account people's points of view. I think that increasing the fees is reasonable, and I think a reasonable increase is something that one could expect, and the 8 or the 10% is certainly reasonable. But when an alternative proposal comes outside the framework of a town advisory committee, as both David and Joe talked about, I don't understand that. I find that sort of out of left field. If I wanted to come in with a proposal tonight, let me just come in and say they should be free to everybody. Yeah, let's do that. I mean, there's processes that need to be honored. I think the points have been made. I won't go to them again. But the outline proposal, while the numbers may be being revised as the gentleman spoke, they were a 91% increase in the current fees. And we're not much out of line with the Rock Harbor or the Pursuit harbors. And Provincetown has its own particular peculiarities as well. So I think it's reasonable to look at alternatives going forward. But to throw a curveball at the last moment, trying to go instead of 10% as the harbor master and the advisory committee recommended, and proposing 91%, which is what I can see from the documents that were forwarded to me, it's just really outrageous. And I don't even know why it would even be considered. It seems totally out of line. And I support the harbor master's recommendation along with the committee, and I urge the Board of Selectmen to endorse that and approve that, and so we can get on with, as the last gentleman said, we get on with making sure that the harbor is ready to go. And the future needs need to be addressed, there's no question, and that ought to be taken into account. Any increases in fees, which are reasonable, should be included in that discussion. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. And who was the other person? Mr. Strauss?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for your time. I want to step back, and I'll do this very quickly, of why we are where we are with these kind of inflation-based increases. I've been on the Marine Advisory Committee for, I believe, 3 years now, or going towards 3 years, and really got involved with marina background, as you may recall, but also a finance guy by profession. And the whole premise with looking at the revision to the rate sheet was based on really understanding what the total expenses were, real operating expenses for the marina, that we could kind of project going forward and then establish how much of a capital reserve or slush fund for capital improvement we want to build into the budget. And over the last 2 years, we keep basing the current year's fees on last year's because we haven't gotten any, there's some accounting, I guess, but it's unclear what the expenses are. We've talked about this in front of you and certainly at the committee level several times over the last couple of years. So everything's been based off the prior year. And since, we haven't had an increase, since 2024, the 10% really is just carrying that logic going forward until we really understand the expenses for this current, excuse me, operating year. And Mike Kavanaugh and his team have committed to really properly allocating and expenses to the proper line items, so we really understand what the expenses are going forward and can base increases based on that. And I think that's really important to remind everybody about, which is why are we focusing on percentage increases, not looking at real expenses and calculating revenue based on that. I also think it's inappropriate to circumvent the Marine Advisory Committee's review with Mr. Zemba's or anybody's proposal to even actually be discussing that is really inappropriate, in my opinion. Just to be clear, the recreational rates are proposed to go up 70%, but the commercial rates are flat when 85% of the boats in the harbor are recreational, 15 approximately are commercial, and do most of the physical damage to the marina, from what I understand, based on the larger boats hitting the piles and things like that, and damage to the docks, and it's not from recreational boaters. So why wouldn't those fees go up as well? It's obviously crucial that we get something approved tonight so Mike can get bills out to people and we can get cash flow, going here so there's money available. And most importantly, the Marine Advisory Committee, as Dave and Joe both said, are truly committed and have been for the last 3 years since I've been involved to really looking at the expenses and doing a thorough public review at that point after this boating season, so we can really correct some even inconsistencies on the current rate sheet, because some folks are paying $87 a linear foot of boat space, some are paying 71, and it's inverted. In the industry, typically larger boats pay more, but the larger boats are paying a smaller length overall per square, linear foot basis. It's just wrong. But we carried that forward because we didn't have the expenses to really work off. And I personally am committed to working with the full committee and the public and Mike and his team to really straighten it out so that next year's fees schedule is accurate, correct, fair to everybody, both commercial and recreational, and it provides cash flow so we can, maintain and improve the facility, which we really need to do. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for all of those comments. Just a minute, please. Now, Tom.
I'll defer to.
I had a question for Tom. Okay. Now, didn't we do a marina study? That's
No, we have not done the marina study.
Okay, that is not. But this year is this is really because we don't know everything, right?
So we had $200,000 that was voted out of free cash in 2022 or 23 for a high-level marina study. Okay. Since that time, we've had a fire at the pier. We've had electrical problems that are longer in being in disrepair than our attentiveness to it over the last couple of years. What we're proposing this year at the town meeting is to take $150,000 of that $200,000 and repurpose it for marina repairs. So we're not gonna do another override. And just to answer the other gentleman's question, whether this was a town committee or an enterprise fund, the necessity of doing that $600,000 capital exclusion would have happened with it being a town department or not the town department, because there wasn't any cash to fix it. It wouldn't have mattered, be it an enterprise fund or not, for that purpose.
Right.
Select Board Member Carboni had her hand up.
Okay, and I know that there's two others, and then we can maybe.
I want to defer to Select Board first.
Okay. Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. All I was doing was pointing to Ryan's.
Okay, that's what you were pointing. I saw that Ryan, and I believe it's Kathleen Bacon. Ryan?
Have Kathleen go first, then I'll go.
Okay, all right. Kathleen?
Good evening, Kathleen Bacon again. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few comments right off the bat here. I have to say it's unprecedented to witness someone going directly to the town administrator's office with a proposal outside of the purview of the harbor master or the Marina Advisory Committee. Unprecedented and completely unacceptable in my opinion. My next comment's going to be to Mr. Kavanaugh, our harbor master, who proposed raising these fees, I believe, his first year in, and we ixnayed that. They didn't pass. The harbor master and the Marina Advisory Committee have worked really hard on the fee schedule. A 10% across the board increase is just a drop in the bucket of what needs to be done down there to get this marina, kind of spiffed up. I mean, it's just, Wellfleet's a gem of a harbor. It's a one-of-a-kind harbor on Cape Cod, and it's a disgrace, the condition that it's in. So these fees need to go through tonight. Let's get on with this. We didn't do it the last time around. I also have to say, if I've said this before, forgive me, I have never seen the Marina Advisory Committee and a harbor master work so concisely and in tandem, without acrimony, without any other agenda, except to make the marina the best facility possible. Lastly, I think Dave Stamatis should run for president. Thank you.
Okay. Ryan, here you go. There's an endorsement for you, Dave.
So I think the 10% increase makes sense for right now, but we really do need to look at comps. That is just part of the process of pricing anything, is that you want to look at your comparables and where you are in terms of your comparables. We all know the marina needs a lot of money to fix. Previously, it had been building a capital, basically because it's an enterprise fund, it's allowed to retain funds as basically a capital reserve that then the enterprise fund can utilize for particularly around capital improvements. But over the last, it went from where that was being added to at a fairly regular basis to where it was, completely wiped out. And now we have really significant expenses. So, we do need to look at, basically where we are in terms of pricing. Previously, the thought was that after dredging was completed, that, the pricing would increase substantially because it would be a more functional harbor for everybody.
Right.
But the percentage increase there was actually relatively mild. And that's just, not collecting enough fees to support the enterprise fund is just putting us behind the ball. And everybody wants, the harbor and the facilities there to be in good condition. We might differ on exactly how we get to that end result. But I do think looking at comparables in the future would be a worthwhile exercise.
Okay, thank you. All right, I am not going to entertain any more public comment. You want one sentence? With one sentence, keep it short.
Just for a fact, when you go to a by-the-foot rate, every town that I've looked into, it's a 2-to-1 ratio, being it's twice as much from whatever rate you come up with for the commercial community. This is done in Provincetown, Rock Harbor, et cetera. Also, correction, the recreational boating average increase will be 63%, not 79%. The non-taxpayer will be a 53% increase, not 90%. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And, as Tom said, it looks like you put some work into that, and thank you, but, you know, when you don't get your application in on time for something, it's not accepted for schools and everything else, and there was a consensus, and I do want to commend the Marina Advisory for really working together and coming to a consensus. No, Joe, I think we're done. I think that we're okay. This is what we have to do. We have to move forward. There has been a consensus of the board. That's what we ask you to do. We thank you for that work and not leaving any blood on the floor and at the end of it. And I'm ready to entertain a motion. Excuse me?
You need to close the hearing.
I would like to motion to close the hearing, please.
So moved.
Ryan, would
Second.
you, thank you.
Second? All right, do I have a motion to go forward? Are we going to?
Madam Chair, should we vote on the motion to close the public hearing? That was the motion.
That was the motion.
Right.
Yeah, oh, and we have to vote on that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so,
Remember my rules.
sure, so I move to close the public hearing.
And Ryan seconded it, so all in favor?
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
And Sheila, aye. I am not entertaining the second motion here. So I would like to have we're going with the marina fee.
That's my recommendation.
So could I have a motion?
Just quickly, just comment.
Yes,
As
please.
part of deliberation, I'd like to thank Marina Advisory for all your work on this with the Harbor Master. It's a lot of work, and as the chair said, there's a process to follow, and you followed it, and not everyone is going to be happy with the outcome, but I thank you for carrying out your charge. And for that reason, I would move to adopt the Harbor Master's fee schedule as amended tonight. I can specify, or
What was the amendment?
in line C.
Oh, yes.
Section, taxpayer rate is 26.21, and non-taxpayer rate is 35.39.
Correct.
So that's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
And Sheila, aye. And now that we have that all wrapped up, do I have a motion? No, I don't have to have another motion?
Nope. We're not-
So I am going to take the liberty of saying, I hear everything that everybody said, and I do think that maybe a task force, I mean, it's a lot for the entire committee to keep coming and meeting and looking at some of these things, but maybe a task force of some of the members to really say, all right, we're going to dig in, work with the administrator, get the numbers of the repairs, get the numbers of other towns, what's a reasonable increase and a fair, it's distributed across, and we can maybe even make some money next year. But on this year, it looks like we're going to be able to get through and get the marina open, and with this vote tonight and hopefully town meeting. And I, again, want to thank you for all your work, and for yours, Mr. Ziemba. Just don't come late to the party in the future. Okay. Well, I'm not going to question why. All right.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
And I know it's been a tough year out there.
Yes.
And it's been a tough year for you, so
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. I'm going to stay here just because we're going to talk about the docks next.
Oh, the docks, that's right. Now we're going to have a discussion on some of those repairs, right? And the damage done. Correct? About the docks? I'm handing the docks over to you.
Yeah, I
right.
don't have to recuse
I
on this one.
now relinquish my gavel and hand it back over to the chair.
Okay, we're moving on to the public hearing item C to determine the seasonal nature, if any, for receiving replacements and removal of the D&E docks, and to further look at the financial well-being of the marina in the future. Just quick background, the ice event we experienced in January going into February caused quite a bit of damage to the D&E dock floats, pretty much destroyed them, and also pulled out a bunch of pilings. The issue here is what we do by way of replacement And do we leave them in all year or take them out? And I'll leave it to the harbor master to explain the alternatives here, and then we'll go into it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My opinion is that we need to do something for the winter fleet. We have a couple of options. The most desired option would be concrete floats. In the packet, there is a email with a quote. If you look at the quote, the first part of it, the 50-foot sections, that is for 6 of them, and we would only need 4 if we were to limit the winter dockage to boats over 30 feet. If we bought 4 of them, it would cost the town $209,850. If we look at the 60-foot sections that are quoted for 8 of them, we would only need 3, and that would come to $174,522. So my recommendation would be that we limit the size of the boat, of the boat that can be in over the winter, and do boats of 30 feet or more, and that we, my personal opinion is that we look into concrete floats to avoid future weather events.
I did not formally open
I'm
the...
not the chair anymore.
This isn't a public hearing.
No.
It is listed here as such.
Yeah, you can,
So I will formally open the public hearing. Nancy, you wanted to speak?
Joe does too.
And then Joe, I'll call on you.
Thank you very much. I'm Nancy Civetta, the Shellfish Warden. I really appreciate Mike recognizing the importance of keeping the commercial fleet working in the winter. I'm not sure I agree with the 30 feet because we have smaller boats that work the harbor, so I'm hoping that we can find a way to accommodate them. But here's just a couple of reasons why we need to keep our fleet working. Thank you to you all who voted to petition the state to extend the bay scallop season, which you saw today. We did get that extension. So this is a season that runs from October to usually March 31st. And it is, for some boats, it's the majority of their revenues for the year. So we need to be able to provide docks so that they can go fishing. We also have a lot of deep water grants, so shellfish farms, and they can't get there except for by boat. And a lot of these are definitely not going to be 30 feet. In December and January, and again in March, we have overwintering and unpitting operations. So there's a lot of people that use boats to be able to get their equipment out of the water, which is what we want, and then put their oysters back. Right now, that's happening. It's been happening all month. And then the department itself, we have to do water quality with the state every month. And yes, we can certainly trailer our small boat, no big deal, but it's just like even the town could use the boat and certainly be an extra added asset for the town in the winter. So it's very, very important that we have floats in and that we keep our fleet working. And maybe there's just a way that we can figure out the right configuration and get the money to get the appropriate floats, because we can't shut this down.
I have a question for you. Certainly the larger draggers need places to tie up, and I think that's what we're getting at here. Some of the smaller boats, I don't know if 30 foot is the appropriate limit there, because some of the smaller boats in the 20 some odd feet and smaller can be trailered, can be hauled out. And some of them do that.
I would agree with that, but we also have small draggers with rigging, and so it's harder for them to move around, and certainly can't go down the road. Then they'd have to stay on the pier anyway. And I just think we need to think big picture about, it's the only year-round industry, really, besides a couple of restaurants, that this town has. And so we have to figure out a way. That is what keeps this town afloat. No pun intended. All right, thank you.
Mike, so in terms of providing adequate dockage, what were you proposing to keep in? And
So I was proposing to have, David and I today went through the list of people who wintered last year and this year, and there's approximately 7 boats over 30 feet, draggers, that we would like to invite back. And that's where I came up with the prices for the docks. We could, if we wanted to do more or lower that foot minimum, or we could do that, but we'd be forced to buy additional concrete floats. And if we did that, they run in the neighborhood of about $52,000 to $58,000, depending on the length. So that's why we came up with a 30-foot mark to try to minimize how many of those we'd have to buy and to keep the price down.
suppose instead we go with wooden floats, because can we even afford concrete floats at this point?
Mr. Chairman, we can't right now afford to pour a cup of coffee down there, but when you're looking at a capital item, and that's what this is going to be, there are two things I would consider. One is, and I've talked to Mike about this, is working with the tech school to see if we could get a deal going with them to build our floats for us. We had that done in another community. It worked out well. The other point, though, is the concrete will survive ice better than these wooden floats will.
Definitely.
And I don't know if it's going to be another 15 years that we get ice like we had, or a winter like we had this year, or if it's going to come to us next year, because things are so screwy weather-wise now, we don't know. I think for the long-term benefit of the fishing community and the stability of the pier, you're better off with the concrete. If we're going to bond it, we're bonding, if we bought another 3 sections, that's $174,000. If you're going to bond, you're going to bond. But you have to build into your rates next year, because if we borrow, we've got like a year until we have to go to permanent bond. We can do a bond anticipation note and only have the one interest payment for the year. But you're going to want to build those costs for your next capitals, because you're going to have to replace them into your capital for the next year. So that piece, you'll probably put a line item in docks, concrete docks or whatever, and you're going to put 30 grand a year aside in your capital for that, and you're going to have to plan for that in your next year's fee structure.
Sheila?
And this is to Tom. Do we have to have this, and to Mike, do we have to have this done? I mean, what's being proposed before, this isn't a town meeting issue. This is about informing us and deliberating on what is the best way to go? Or are we going to ask for money at town meeting based on something here?
That's something that the board needs to consider tonight. The capital budget public hearing is Thursday. So the capital budget is locked and kind of loaded right now. Right. However, if the board were to concur with the harbor master to put in concrete docks, I can make a change to that with some people not real happy about it, but we can make the change between now and next Tuesday.
Okay, and say we don't do that, then you have to wait till the next.
Then you would have to wait, well, you would have to wait to either a special town meeting or the next town meeting, we don't have a special, we have 2 annuals now, so we would have to take the second part of the annual town meeting or next year's town meeting. Now, what that will do, this winter is over, okay? If we come in the fall, you can do we can go out we can do the proposal. We can get we can get good hard numbers. If these numbers are good, we can put them on at the town meeting, and they could probably be in for January or for the winter. If we wait till October to do it, we probably won't get them until spring.
Right. And you need them by next year.
You need them by next
Need something
winter.
by
So
next winter. So,
if the board is of the mind to buy concrete docks and to add the docks to take care of some of the shorter foot length boat, then we need to propose that tonight in,
okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Actually, those docks need to go in by,
Right.
The docks for the summer season? Yeah, they need to start going in now. We have issues with the DPW's loader being down, and it's gonna, most likely we'll have to delay opening, but I think that's probably for another.
Can you lease a loader?
We could.
That's what I would do. Get open, do whatever you can to get open as early as you can.
and what's the time frame on ordering concrete docks?
I don't know. I can look into it. My guess is we'd certainly have them by the fall.
Oh, okay, so what do we do for the coming season, though?
Oh, this coming season, we would put in timber floats, and then if we did do concrete, we would pull the timber floats when the new docked concrete came in, and then put the concrete and leave them.
Okay.
Through the chair, stupid question, but the floats that if we were to buy the concrete, you put the wooden floats in, you pull the wooden floats out, we can reuse those in other
Oh,
areas.
yeah.
They're not specific lengthwise to that one area.
Yeah, they mix and match, and we would be able to continue to replenish
Use them. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Joe?
The result of the recent harbor's icing damage problem is expensive, disruptive to the marina's opening date. That sets up operation that can't be done, delay in sending out 250 leases that are already late in going out. The harbor we have is susceptible to icing. It has a northwest facing, the prevailing winds from the northwest. It also has some fresh water in it that freezes faster than salt water. Looking at the number of past years the harbor has iced over is no longer a valid predictor of icing in future years due to climate change, which we know is rapidly worsening, and the frequency of its disasters becoming so much more unpredictable. We need to look at the bigger picture here, the marina's finances, which is part of the agenda item. We have a lot of infrastructure that needs to be repaired. The bulkhead is caving in, okay? We have an electrical system that is so far under code, it's unbelievable. Through the good grace of the town's inspector, he allowed us to open up last summer and hopefully this summer, okay? We need approximately $7 million to dredge the inner harbor, which contains almost all of the boats. The state dredging fund agency has been very good to Wellfleet in the past. I spoke to the director recently. They don't have a dime in their fund.
Right.
And he advised that they're probably not going to for some years to come, okay? Without dredging the inner harbor, the marina would cease to operate as we know it. The SEC, the Seaport Economic Council, is on life support. They have very little money. They didn't even give out any money last June. So I think what it comes down to is, are you willing to roll the dice every year? So let me just comment, and then I'm done, on the issue of concrete floats, okay? I'd like to think that all of us can learn something from others who have been through this. There are harbors I'm aware of who got rid of concrete floats. The cost is huge. They crack. Unlike wooden boats, wooden docks, they can be repaired at minimal cost. You don't repair a concrete dock. They deteriorate. 4 years ago, we had concrete docks down there that deteriorated terribly. One of them, both of them had large holes. The hole in one of them was big enough for a small child to fall through. We had to put plywood over it. The deterioration was awful. When you look at that cost and possibly bonding for it, look at the big picture. We're going to ask the town for that, and are you going to ask them for $7 million for dredging and money for the bulkhead and a new L pier as well? You have before you the wastewater, what, $140 million? You have affordable housing, okay? I think the issue comes down to you have to make some decisions about what you're willing to fund. And concrete floats, I think you'd have difficulty getting the town meeting to pass that when the alternative is good pressure-treated wood that can be readily repaired.
Thank you for your.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Kevin?
My name's Kevin Coakley. I sit on the Marina Advisory Committee, but I'm going to speak as a private citizen. We're only talking about 15 boats.
Yeah.
You're going to spend that amount of money? December, you get ice, you know the temperature drops, tell everybody to move. They all moved this year, they rafted up. The boats that come up, they come up. Pull the floats. December, you still have some decent days. That ice went left in December. It's winter.
Right.
And I don't agree with Joe very often, but I do agree with him on this one, that it's a big ask for town. And personally, I wouldn't vote for it. Thank you.
Well, let me ask you this. Assuming we go with wooden floats, we have to leave something in for the larger boats that work all winter.
Then leave two and tie them, don't chain them.
Through the chair, can you explain that, what you mean?
The ice gets under the floats, and if they're chained, there's no play on the float. So they get hung up.
Okay, thank you.
And you're only talking, what, one, maybe two boats. You still got the L pier, and a lot of the boats rafted up on the gas dock this year, and they went down, you just have to watch them. They all know when the ice is coming. They're just like the birds and chasing the bait. They know it's coming. And it doesn't take a lot to figure that out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
William Barrio again. I was also thinking about the concrete docks. Are we going to do different pilings for those, or are we just going to leave the wooden pilings? That's the next problem we're going to run into. All those pilings are rotted. They all need to be replaced. If you're going to leave a dock in like that, it seems like a waste of money. We're just throwing it at the door, pretty much. What about like a bubbler system? We could also think maybe doing something like that for the winter months for a couple wooden docks that go in. That could cut back on a little bit of the ice abuse. I know other towns do it, like up in Nauset Marine, they do that, and a couple others. So, I mean, there is other options. I don't think we need to put that on a town vote because there's a lot of other options we could possibly turn towards avenues to save a little bit more money.
Through the chair?
Yeah.
Mr. Barrio, thank you. So these are the things that we had I'm going to assume we had in Bourne, where they're in the water.
Yep.
They're just kind of like mini motors
Yep.
that just keep the water
Yeah,
churning
yep.
so it
Right,
doesn't
so they
freeze
don't
up.
freeze so quick.
Yeah, we had those in our slips.
Yeah, we don't have those down there. So, I mean, that could also be part of the problem of why the ice destroyed more than usual.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I mean, it's just another option we can think about.
Just one,
Thank
before you,
Mr. Barrio.
Yep, yeah, we are replacing pilings, but I've heard that with concrete docks you have to have steel pilings,
I'm pretty sure you do. I mean, you're not going to put a toothpick in to hold
and that
something
gets
heavy,
us
you know what I
into
mean?
problems of galvanic corrosion and so forth with boats.
I mean,
and-
that's some of the problem that if you're going to spend that much money, you should really put the right, equipment to hold it there.
Yeah.
Versus,
The-
a
the
toothpick
issue
in
with
the mud,
bubblers-
you're just wasting $200,000 on a useless dock that the piling's going to fall over.
No, the issue with bubblers and and the other alternative, which is the motors with the propellers that
Yep.
you drop down, our bottom is all silt.
I'm well aware of that.
And the other thing is they operate on electricity, and when we had the big storm in February, the power went out down there, and they don't have a generator backup.
I just wanted to-
$200,000, you can buy a generator.
Well, what I was just going to clarify is you're saying it's, why go to the concrete when you have all these other things and
It seems like a waste of money if you're going to do concrete, you're not going to put the right pilings in, it's just, it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it's
I
going to
just
be
wanted
worth
that
the
clarification of what you
energy
were
to
saying.
even waste the money.
Forget that, yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
you'd be better off buying a generator and a bubbler and pulling a cord and letting it run if the power goes out. I mean, I
Right.
don't know. I mean, there's other options, you can see which one's cheaper. Which, I wouldn't vote yes on this, and I wouldn't vote yes on it for my town vote, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Barrios? Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Select Board Member
Um,
Carbone?
After, Mike, why don't you go ahead?
Frank Travers, commercial fisherman, I do some crane work, some fiberglass boat repair, all kinds, little everything in it, and love Mike's ideas, so I'm doing it, but I understand the funding and where it's going to go. The wood's practical. My main concern, whichever route you go, is that we definitely have to have access in the winter. You can't, in fact, I don't even know if you legally can do it as a harbor of refuge, taking federal and state funding
Right.
for dredging. I don't know if you can limit access to the commercial guys
Right.
year round. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but, I mean,
Right.
size, selfishly, my boat's a little smaller, but I can talk to people about that. But even on the smaller side, and I heard you said it made sense about the trailering, but I was breaking ice a lot this winter. And there were a lot of times I'd break it just for those smaller boats that were in the water, and they could follow me out, and I'd break it in just because my boat facilitated it well. It was a heavy boat. But there were several days where I'd go over and try to break up at the ramp, and guys would come out with their plows, trying to get plows. We're trying to break the ice and plow to get guys to be able to launch with trailers, and several days they couldn't do it, just as information, not like, in opposition to you. So, I mean, the trailing thing is a perfect world is great, but keep in your head that if it's a winter like this, it does limit,
Right.
Well, a good point was
people-
made about the drag rigging.
Yeah, well, that, and then, and part of it's sort of a little bit of just working together and common sense, like not saying, oh, me, but, my boat was in all winter, and really, if you ever noticed, it never iced around there. It was pretty simple. If you knew that, you watch temperature, and you watch what direction the wind was. In the morning at 5, before you go to work, you start the boat up, leave it idle in gear for 10 minutes. It does like the bubbler effect. Night before you go home, you go down, you start for 10 minutes, and you'd have a little pond every night. And you can, if all it takes is a little common sense, kind of watch everything. If everyone kind of works together, and then I was even wondering, as far as the dock space, I know I don't want to get everyone mad, but a lot of commercial harbors, most of them, you don't get your own elite spot. A lot of times we raft side by side. I mean, you don't want a big heavy boat hanging outside a skiff and turn trouble with ice.
Right.
But I mean, it's not that much of an inconvenience if we have to make it work. Well, you take a year or two to get exactly set up. But I think, I just want to make sure it's heard that I think we really have to have access for the commercial guys.
Yep.
What would your suggestion be as far as how many wooden docks to leave in?
I mean, I don't know, because I don't know what we get down there. I see, Mike knows the numbers. But even like, as far as the size, we can talk about it later, Mike, but let's have to go through tonight. But like Jeremy stores, that boat looks 30, but that's actually only 27, I think. That's 27 Nauset. So the number's kind of hard. I appreciate it. I mean, I'm just saying, the number's kind of hard, but I don't know. I don't know what's in there. I don't know what the magic number is. And the other thing is, I was saying to Mike, I talked about two other things. One is the piles. They make a commercial product, but it's very simple. All it is really the corrugated drainage, the black rib drainage. And if we're going to be setting piles anyway while we get Winkle with a crane down there, I see that stuff all the time for cheap use. It slides over, so then the ice bonds to the plastic and it rides up and down the pole, opposed to the chains, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So you put a sleeve on it.
It's basically a sleeve. And it would actually be great in the summer for the people whether I don't have one of those slips, but I have the slip. You can tie to it and not worry about the tide, because some of it floats on it, so it kind of comes and goes. And then my other idea was, if it comes, this isn't perfect, ideal, but if it means facilitating access in the winter, even if we had it, because they're doing all these new docks, there's plenty of old docks going, all the guys we really needed something to tie to. Like, it doesn't be perfect, shiny. I wonder if you could even have like a sacrificial set, as you set aside down the pit as you're pulling them out, and in case you do need, you agree on 4, and all of a sudden it's a big base gulp year, and now Nancy's saying, geez, I got 12 guys coming. Well, they're kind of lousy, but we have them down there, we could throw an extra one in, And if the guys leave in December, we pull it, I don't know. I'm not trying to like tell you to do your job, just, but I definitely want to make sure that it's known that we need to have access for sure
Okay.
throughout the winter.
No, I get that.
Okay.
Barbara?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So question, I guess, for the harbor master and admin. I agree we need to keep it open. I agree with Shellfish Constable that should include boats smaller than the 30 feet. I guess it's hard I'll just speak for myself, to sort of hear, there's a lot of really good ideas, and, I respect, Mike, the work that you do. But I'm wondering, is it possible for us to just vote on an amount that we're willing to put on this, for this item, without specifying for now which of these methods or some other?
Right.
And leave that till later when these can be more fleshed out? Can we do it that way? Because I have a hard time voting for a proposal when I'm hearing.
And we have all these, we don't have really,
Yeah,
Well,
so.
we have a
is
lot of
that
ideas.
Is that a possibility that we vote on an amount rather than a particular method?
Yes, it would just go in the capital. Again, we would amend the capital between now and between now and Thursday to get that done. If we don't go with concrete, which it seems to be the common thread here, which makes sense, the wooden docks were how much versus the concrete? Because I don't.
So in looking at, and again, we can adjust it, but in looking at boats over 30, we'd have roughly 7 of them. So we would put in approximately 10 wooden floats. Each wooden float, there's 2 issues with the wooden floats, and I'm not opposed to it. It just wouldn't be my first choice. The 2 issues are, one is it takes us it costs about $4,000 for us to build a wooden float, so we'd be talking putting $40,000 a year at risk. But the bigger picture is the timing.
Yeah. Buying them, how much are they to buy?
Oh, we got a quote back, we got a bid back recently, and they were like $120,000 for 15.
And that's replacing all of the ones that got damaged?
No, just for 15. Yeah, which is pretty much all the ones. We're not.
How much? 100.
I think it was 128.
128.
90.
For 15 docks. And the other issue is they can't build those in time. Luckily, we've spent a lot of time repairing what's out there. But even if they built them, they wouldn't nearly be ready for the opening. So, it's a timing issue.
So we have to use.
About 8,500 apiece.
Right.
Well, through the chair, why would they have to be ready by opening?
If we left in, say 10 docks and they were all destroyed, and I'm just using the worst case scenario, we would need to replace those 10 docks so we could open that section for May 1st.
For this year?
Yeah, for
any
year that there was the ice damage.
All right, I want to call on.
Yes, my apologies. Do I need to repeat anything?
Before I go to you, Ryan, I just wanted to ask, we have to try to plan on being open May 1st, so D&E docks have to be functional. So what's it going to take? Because I had heard the figure $70,000 to order floats for that.
Yeah, that's what we were quoted by one firm. That firm did not bid on the bid, so the bid that we got that was lowest was the 120.
Wow, that's almost
26.
twice as much.
Yeah.
Still a lot cheaper than concrete, and I think the verdict is pretty much in that concrete is really not the way to go here.
Not with our budget now.
And, okay, Ryan?
Yeah, I strongly support keeping access open throughout the winter. I always have. It's really important. I don't really know the best way on how to do it. The concrete docks that Joe was talking about. I'm not sure how old they were. By 3 or 4 years ago, but they were in really rough shape then. But they had been there for some time. But you know, we just have to make sure that we have the ability for, commercial boats to be able to dock throughout the year. And that's always been, part of Wellfleet as well is the commercial fishing. So that's it. I'm not sure exactly the best way to go about it tonight. Maybe Barbara's suggestion of, a certain amount. But, it does feel kind of nebulous.
I think an excellent suggestion was made about using older floats in the wintertime. We can always keep,
Have them if, yeah.
we do have some, and we can keep them down at the pit if we need to during the summer.
To the chair, my concern with the older floats would be a lot of them are pretty much ready to go already. We would want to build new floats that are much stronger. They're screwed in, they're not nailed in. Like there's issues with the floats down there that they would not take an ice event well at all.
But going forward, I think we can ultimately count on having something on hand that we can use. Why don't you come on up?
Chris Maluski, full-time fisherman.
Oh, you tip your mic up, sir.
Chris Maluski, full-time fisherman. I do multiple fisheries. I do oyster and Wellfleet, but my fishing boat moves around depending on what provides for my family. My boat's up in Boston right now, but I wasn't here for the base golf season this year. I did do it previous years. Having a spot to come work it's what keeps my family going. To do with docks, I've grew up building docks. I've worked for Von Cabral building the Provincetown Pier. Concrete does break down over time. They are great. You do need special pilings for them to keep, and the upkeep. Boats, commercial guys are hard on stuff, backing in, breaking, chipping. Wooden docks work. The harbormaster's office could use a generator. The bubblers work. I've seen them work. I've fished out of New Bedford. I've been iced in March, and coming home, storms can come, ice can come anytime, especially Wellfleet with fresh water and everything else. The piling issue, like Frank got it before me, they do make plastic sleeves. Ice will ride up and down plastic. You can protect the pilings. It'll actually protect the whole pilings left in for even the recreational boats.
Question, Mr. Chairman, if I might?
Yeah.
On the sleeves.
Yep.
Okay.
I like that idea.
Can you when you put your piling in, okay, and you tie, I don't know if you tie it down or not, but. Right, okay, so you could put this sleeve on a subsequent year. It wouldn't have to be.
Yeah, you could.
Okay,
you can remove
I'm
them
trying
too.
to figure affordability, buying
You
one
could
piece of
do
it
a
this year.
section of them. The only good thing is if you put them on all of them, if the ice ever got so bad where it started to move the pilings around, Wellfleet is pretty protected in the back, but we did lose a couple from the ice, and then there's others from boats, but it will prevent and take care of that.
My point was it doesn't have to be done in one step. It can be done if we had to do it in two steps.
And then having a few docks for the commercial guys is, I think, a good thing.
Mhm.
You know, having the bubbler system generator for the harbormaster's office could run a handful of bubblers down that section of docks. That would take care of, I know Frank and me have been dealing with ice all winter and taking care of that, start the boat, but there is always a couple of guys that aren't down there. Having bubblers run and protecting everybody, it actually isn't a bad thing. I think that would actually help.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Okay.
No.
Just to get the thought process.
No,
There you go.
that's where we're
Mike
here.
actually had this idea when I went to tell him about it, but he said that the town council said they couldn't, which was great. Kudos to him, he thought of it. We in P-Town, not that long ago, maybe in the last 6-8 years, so I don't know if anyone else can get creative in finding a way. There's a person right there. before they redid all their docks, we were having the same kind of issues. And Rex, who was a harbor master at the time, actually got some kind of, I don't know what it was, a release. All the fishermen, he said, listen, I mean, we're used to making something out of nothing. You guys look at broken docks. We're used to working something out of nothing with no money and no brutal. We have tons of tools and tons of know-how. And he actually set up like 2 weekends. We set out all the floats of the pier, and he had the fishermen come down and actually, we had to sign some kind of liability or whatever it was. And we banged those things out in like no time. And Rex, he's like, these are better than they were new. So it's been, I know Mike said he had that idea too. So just, I know he looked into it and they told him no, but I don't know if anyone else can get a little more creative on a way to do it. But that would be another potential option. Maybe if you are using the sacrificial ones, before they go in the next year over the summer, you guys got to get them up to par or whatever it takes to. I'm just trying to think of another thing to run by.
Okay.
Barbara?
Yep, through the chair. I guess, again, we're just hearing a lot of good ideas.
A lot of good ideas.
And it sounded like Ryan might support what I suggested about us setting an amount and then just directing the town administrator to work with the harbor master and, Marina Advisory, whoever else. And just, rather than us debate the merits with not a lot of information. So I guess I was going to see if my colleagues might support that as well.
I do, and if it's more general, then you can have different, whatever shakes out to be the best solution, you can go with, because we've already given you that permission to do. So you would have to give us the amount.
The amount, if we've got a $120,000 quote on the wooden ones.
Yeah. And then we're talking about.
You got mobilization, you got some other things. I'd put $160,000 in there to make sure you were covered.
That might even cover the sleeves.
What about
or some
two?
sleeves.
Why don't you say two?
I think that's asking for more than.
We need?
180?
We got to be careful.
Yeah, give yourself a buffer.
Dave?
180.
180.
That's a good
So after, Chair, after we finish hearing from the public, I will make a motion.
Okay.
So I just want to add to a few things. Joe mentioned the older docks that we did have. From my own personal knowledge, those docks were in excess of 30 years old, and they might have even been used when we acquired them. And they had been left in and just beaten. And they survived. And I'll add that they were not the commercial rated concrete dock that you will find available now that have a 50-year lifespan. So if you do the math on basically wood is going to be a 10 to 15-year dock, best case scenario. And a lot of times we see it even shorter because ice and wear and tear, so on and so forth. So from a cost perspective, the concrete is by far the more efficient means about putting docks in. And to Mike's point, much more time efficient for his staff. I mean, he can be focused on many other administrative tasks instead of taking this section in and out yearly. So in my personal point of view is whether we go with used docks in reserve or concrete docks, the fact that we are going to keep something for the fishermen here is the point. We have to have that. This is
There's no question about that.
You got to
We got that message.
Right. And to add to the fact about the ramp, most of the time when we're iced in the back, we can get a bigger vessel to break us out if we're in a small vessel. We can't break through to get through the ramp to get in. So it's just
too
kind
shallow.
of, in addition to the fact that we can't really leave the town to fish from this town because we don't have anything in our town charter for the shellfish constable to come and police us and so on and so forth. So basically, short of my rant is concrete docks are pretty good. Good idea. I mean, cost effective. It is the more efficient means, a way of doing it, and time wise. If we were to go with wood, I would suggest that maybe if it's possible to rebuild some docks to a more ice standard, seeing that they probably need repair anyways. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
People online.
So if we set aside this amount of money, we have that option then.
So what I would recommend that within the capital outlay budget itself, that this go into the repair and maintenance line at the marina for the harbor, for the marina. That is a catch-all area for repairs to be done, and it would be able to be taken out of there as opposed to adding a new line item. I don't think we need to do that.
This would allow us to consider alternatives like concrete.
Correct.
Okay, there are two people online. Charlie Frazier has been on waiting for a while, so I'm going to call on him. There you go.
Hi, good evening. Regarding the concrete floats, I believe those were installed in 1985 when Jamie Bell was the harbor master, and they redid the inside of the marina with the floats and all the pilings. The town was told that they would last through the ice. And the first winter, we found out that wasn't the case. As the ice built up on the revetment, the floats tipped, they cracked, and that was the beginning of the end 40 years ago. So I don't think concrete floats is the way to go. Although I do, back then we did have the L-shaped pier, and the fleet was mainly moved out there in the winter months. We didn't have as big mosquito fleet as we do today, but I think the wooden floats are the way to go. Some sacrificial ones probably are in order, and that's what I would support as a taxpayer. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Frazier.
Thank you. Kelly's iPhone, could you identify yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Mike Ziemba. I commercial shellfish out of this town. Just want to make sure I could touch on the concrete float subject. So the concrete floats obviously aren't going to be the be-all that ends all, but they are definitely better built than the wooden floats. And when you consider the working life expectancy on those, I'm fairly confident that those will outlast and be a better value than the wooden floats if we had to leave a float in. Now, to the idea of taking floats out completely and just leaving us with, an L pier or telling us to find another place to tie, that's actually not an option for us. We have to land here in town. And problem is it's not like, decades ago where people could just haul out because they did good enough fishing throughout the summer months. Summer sales aren't what they were even years prior. We don't make enough to sustain by not having a fishery in the wintertime. So it's actually crucial that we have a place to go and we can be able to continue fishing through the winter like we have been doing in the last, decade or so. So, yeah, we need a place to go. I just wanted to go on record and say that.
Okay, thanks. Just to be clear, I think there's no question that there is going to be a place to tie up. We're not going to abandon you. Nancy?
Oh, they hung up on me.
I thought you were done.
Hello, you hear me?
Yep. We thought you were done.
No, I was just waiting for you to finish your piece. The L pier, it is an alternative as a place to tie. However, even if we had all three sides to tie to, like if it wasn't burnt up like it is, you still need to then tie accordingly with the direction of the wind. Meaning, you're not going to want to tie on the east end if the wind shifts around to the south and east, because then the ice will damage your vessel being on the east end. And I know because I've had this happen. I sustained some serious damage from that one scenario, as I mentioned. So, like I said, you've got two ends to tie up, if one of them's out, and it doesn't leave us a lot of options and doesn't leave a lot of numbers of berths to accommodate people.
No, what I'm saying is that, no, we get the message. There is going to be a place to tie up inside. It's just a question of how we do it.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yep. Nancy?
So just, I heard you say about how we lost power at the pier during the storm, and we might want to think about as a town, I don't know when we'll have the money, but a generator down there would be important not only for ice eaters or whatever else we might need down at the marina, but also because then the municipal vehicles could gas up there and we wouldn't have the problem of calling every gas station on Cape Cod to see who is open, and we could have taken care of our own. And I don't know what it costs, but I'm just something for the future and about getting a generator down there. I can't
That's a good
take full
idea.
credit. There's another employee in the room who helped with that.
Okay, Joe?
And then I think we should wrap this up.
Why does everything always come down to money?
It's always about money.
Just a final note on concrete and full disclosure. Harbors that do go with them, you have to hire a big crane to come in, given the weight, to put them in and to take them out. Back to the issue on the agenda of marina finances. There is a matter that the committee has discussed that you're not aware of that I want to share with you. Mr. Guarino mentioned the $200,000 that was appropriated at town meeting.
Right.
The committee was never informed about that. It was just done and presented as the need for a consultant, okay? You've indicated that you're going to use $150,000 of that for the repairs, and I think you indicated you wanted to keep the $50,000 out for a consultant. I think everybody on the committee agrees that given the tremendous resources we have in this town on these committees and those who are not on them, especially when it comes to the marina and the harbor, commercial, not commercial, that we've never been asked to put together that kind of a report for the future. And we'd like the opportunity to do that without spending $50,000. It was mentioned earlier, and it's in your packet, that there were actually not 2, but 3 marinas that Michael referenced, okay? 2 of them are in our neighborhood ballpark. And if you look at the pricing, we're pretty close to them. Provincetown is in a different league, okay? But we think if there's a need to look to the future, and I think we all agree, do that we have to be very careful. Wellfleet boaters are not wealthy. The National Boat US Foundation did a study last year and found that nationally the average boater does not make more than $75,000, okay? It's not accurate to think that by going up and up and up on the fees, you know, we're going to make a huge dent in all that has to be done down there. We're a business, and we have to be competitive, and we always have to look at other marinas because as a business, boaters pick and choose. So, you know, we'd like you to think about putting the whole $200,000 in the budget, not the $150,000. That's a recommendation.
I'll let the board discuss.
So,
Barbara?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess there's a couple things going on. I mean, the town administrator has proposed that. We haven't discussed it yet. We haven't discussed it with FinCom. Tom's proposal, the town administrator's proposal. The agenda item says to further look at the financial well-being of the marina in the future, which is a really big topic. And I'm not sure we want to, address all of that tonight. I mean, I have a couple thoughts on use of that $200,000, and that should be discussed with the full board. That study, harbor study, was also supported by natural resources. There was a bigger constituency for that study than just the marina. So I guess my suggestion is, let's defer this discussion of the $200,000 and what to do with how much of it, as well as the financial well-being of the marina, to a further discussion, because I think this is not the right time to figure all of that out.
So I just want to ask a question. So you were proposing, or you're going
It's
to
a
propose
proposed
to us
article for the board to consider.
to use 150 of this 200 that was
Right.
written for these purposes that we're discussing right now, the docks, or is it a separate thing?
No, it's all entailed. I wasn't planning to. We passed, the townspeople were so generous last year with the $600,000. That was going to take care of the electrical and
The bulkhead.
the bulkhead and some other things. And we had enough money with that to do it. We have the problem of this year.
Yes, exactly.
Okay? That added an additional couple $100,000 plus or minus to the plate. My thought was not to go back to the taxpayers on an override. Again, we had just hit them. And my intent was to utilize 150 to help with some of the current repairs, since nothing had been done with that since 21 or 22, or 22 or 23. And I was going to keep the 50 aside, Joe, for a couple of reasons. One is, at some point, you're going to have to go out to, you're going to want to operationalize the vision that you've come up with, and you're going to end up having to get an RFP. You're going to have to go out to bid for some stuff. And I was leaving that for some consultancy on the RFP that may be needed, or, you know, other things that may be needed. If the board chooses to use the money in the manner that I suggest, and that's up to the board, I'm not going to die on the sword for 50 grand. If they want to use the whole 200,000, I'm fine with that. I prefer, it'll give us a little bit better. But we're going to have to come back at some point to do the operationalization of whatever the vision is to fix the marina.
Okay, so I'm just going to put this out there. At some point, we are going to have to realize that the 150, 200, this and that is never going to get us to where we want to be. It's always going to be a repair. And I do think that we've never really realized the benefit of this marina in many, many years because it has been neglected. So I do think either and I know that we're searching for money through the state and federal, if there's grants out there that can help with marina and fisheries and all of that. But I do think that there is going to have to be a reckoning, and people are going to have to hear that there is going to be, if they really want to fix this, we're going to have to come together and say we're going to fix it, and it's going to cost a lot, and it's going to be on a bond that will, you know, be paid in many, many years, but it's going to be on our backs. But that is, this little bit here and there is never going to fix it. And someday that we're going to have the real hard conversation with everybody.
So if I could respond,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
please.
I think Mr. Aberdale made a couple of good points early in his first comments this evening. He kind of gave you a template of what we have in front of us. There's a whole bunch of other stuff too, but you've got the sewer, which we know about. We've got the overall municipal functioning, and we've had some issues with wage and other things. We have a school that is in need of capital repair. Depending on which report you read, it's between 3 and 15 million. There's probably 7 million, I think you're probably right, at the marina. The town hall needs work. The Shellfish Shack desperately needs work, okay? So there are a lot of priorities, and well, Mr. Aberdale used the word decision. I think we have to really look at prioritization, because we're not going to, you can't, well, the board can do whatever it wants, but I think it imprudent to go after the taxpayer every time we need a nickel. We need to be able to use, if we have anything in the budget that we can repurpose, we need to do that before we start asking people for more money.
Okay.
That's my thought.
I do understand that.
Joe?
A quick comment again on money. When the channel was dredged, that's under the jurisdiction of the Army Corps of Engineers. The cost was $5 million. We came in on time, under budget. It was totally federally funded through the Congress. We lobbied for years and finally was able to do that. But there's a variable here that's not being mentioned, and that is the tremendous lack of federal money in all categories that is no longer coming to our state, a blue state, okay? So that's not temporary. That's a variable over which we have no control. And we keep hearing when we talk to the state officials, you know, it's going to be this way for quite a few years.
Yeah.
So, you know, to your comment, yeah, we have 2.9 million in the dredging budget for the town. But that, I used the word approximate 7 million. That could be more. We have 10,000 cubic yards of silt filling in that main channel every year, okay? And I think when you look at the finances, you know, it has to be from the perspective of not getting a lot of help. And overrides may be inevitable, and you hit the nail on the head. You're going to have to establish priorities very soon. The projected date to dredge the inner harbor is October of 2027. That's not far away. And the funding mechanism has to kick in well before that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
One other point, and then I'll stop because it's getting on 9:30.
Yeah.
Just for the board, so the board's aware, we're working on other things too. I'm currently working with Senator Markey's office in an effort to get an earmark for the repair of the L pier. It's probably got a 5% chance, but
Right.
we're going through.
Got no chance if you don't work on it.
If we don't put it in, we have no chance, so we're
Right.
trying.
Go ahead.
Dave?
Just to touch on the finances issue here, hate to say this, but if the board had considered my fee schedule a little bit more, you would have noticed the extra $200,000 you wouldn't be searching for. So feverishly, you'd have it. And in addition to that, we roughly have about a 6-year dredging cycle now going, if I'm not mistaken, 6 or 7?
That's right.
Once we start, it'll
It'll
be
be-
6, 3, then 3, then 3, then 3.
Okay, so in the 6 years time frame, just generating, let's say, an average of $250,000 additionally, that's $1.5 million you would not be asking for. So please consider it next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just that it wasn't done, it wasn't,
And not just based on the time thing. It's,
Okay,
it's-
I'm not
this
going to
was
go back,
necessary.
we're not going to go back to that now.
Mr. Chair, I would like to propose that do we have to make a vote here on anything?
Well,
Or no, we don't?
We do have to make,
I think that
Yes.
we've exhausted, we've kicked this
No, no,
horse and
we do have
dragged
to,
it to water.
So, Mr. Chairman, I had said earlier, after we took public comment, I could make a motion. If the chair would like a motion, if admin.
well, we do have to make a decision on,
No, we don't.
on,
Just- I'm sorry.
will you please let me finish?
I apologize.
Thank you. We have to make a decision on setting aside the money, whether we don't have to decide whether we're going to go with concrete or wood right now. But I think
No.
we have to decide on setting aside the money so we can
Right.
get something done.
Sure.
Because it has to be done. They have to have, we
Right.
have to be able to open in May.
Right.
And the fishermen have to be able to tie up next winter.
Right, so, Mr. Chairman, that was why earlier I suggested, we all agree, we need this, we need it for commercial fishermen, boats not just over 30 feet, under 30
Yeah.
feet. And because we're having there's so much input on how we could do this, that's why I suggested that we just set an amount and direct the town administrator and harbor master, who's raising his hand.
I don't mean to interrupt you. You can
Yeah,
finish. I'm sorry.
You know, and just specify that amount, which we learned was $180,000, I think, and direct the town administrator and harbor master to, you know, pursue the most appropriate, you know, cost-efficient means of achieving this goal. And that was going to be the motion that I was going to make.
Right.
Okay, Tom?
Mr. Chair, just a quick question, because you just mentioned it again. If there is going to be consideration of concrete, then we need to put enough money there for the concrete. And that's going to be substantially more than $180,000. My thought coming out of this discussion is that we had decided, at least for now, not to do concrete.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's-
you just brought it up again, and I did, if we're gonna put money aside, we gotta
wasn't
put
sure
money
if
I
it-
aside.
think that was sort of the sense of
Yeah,
every.
that was
I would, while you're doing your research, I would look into bubblers and the sleeves, but and that's.
Right.
You're gonna find out, is it gonna work, can we do it this year or not? But,
That makes more sense to me.
options.
is-
yeah,
But bubblers aren't that expensive.
No, they're not.
That should come out of your
Okay,
regular
and Mike?
budget.
Mike?
Yeah, just to clarify my suggestion for concrete, we could do timber docks. We could throw all the money we want, but we can't buy time.
Right.
If they're destroyed, even if we have $180,000, we're not going to get them built for May 1st.
Through the chair, isn't the 180 purchasing them?
Yeah, but the people who have to build them,
They don't have them in stock?
takes them 6 months. So that's why my suggestion on concrete.
They're doing.
So I just want to be clear, like, we could do timber docks, and we could limit it to certain sizes, but if they're destroyed, regardless if we have the money or not, it's going to be 6 months after we order them before we'll get them. So those sections that are destroyed, chances are that they won't be open until we get those docks 6 months later.
I think the key there then is to keep them from being destroyed by the sleeves.
Bubblers and the, yeah.
The concept of bubblers,
He'll take things out.
which may require backup power to be considered down the road. In the meantime, portable generators can run those things. They don't use much electricity. So I guess at this point, Ryan, you got your hand up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we should just, go with the town administrator's recommendation at this point. I mean, we're not going to have much time between now and when the warrant closes. This money has just, not been utilized, and it would make sense to put it towards some of these repairs, and that would solve this debate for tonight at least.
So through the chair, I guess I'm confused, because I thought we were talking about what means to use to have docks that can be wintered over, and we were going to perhaps set an amount. Now we're talking about, Ryan is suggesting that we go with the town administrator's suggestion for how to pay for repairs, but that's not the same question.
Correct.
So I'm really confused about what we're doing then.
Could I provide some
Yeah.
explanation, please? The 150 that I was proposing didn't visualize the docks at the time. I thought about this a while ago. We have the damage done this year, in addition to what we spent, the townspeople put up last year, exceeds $750,000. So the intent was get the money for this. We have enough other repairs to do down there from the damage this year, and the estimates that we've gotten from the other work are up higher than what we were anticipating. So I need the 180 and the 175.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I was just confused about what we would be voting on.
Right. Are we
Tonight's
voting
the
on new
one-
money, or are we voting on the money that was?
No, the money for the money that was set aside for the harbor study, you will discuss and determine next week when you go through the articles.
Okay.
Whether it's appropriate or not.
Okay.
Or whether the amount's appropriate or not.
Tonight.
Tonight, we're looking for a specific amount of money to replace the docks that were ruined with the ice in the winter damage, as well as what else?
No, we're taking that money out of the 600.
So you're robbing Peter to pay
Right.
Paul. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. So are we voting to put this on a warrant to generate another 150 or
No,
180?
if the select board decides to add any money for this purpose, I will amend the capital plan and
I
put it
see.
in the line in the capital plan to be heard Thursday night.
Okay. All right.
So
Barbara,
that's
you
what
can
we're
write that
voting
up.
on to do tonight,
Correct.
Okay, so,
and predicated on the idea that we're going to go with wooden docks.
Correct.
Okay. Which makes more sense to me to do that and to find a way to
It's
protect.
just a
them.
timing issue now but that
but the
will have to
timing,
work
okay,
around.
I don't want to belabor this. I don't really understand the timing issue fully, and I guess, if, Mike, if we were talking about, so if 180,000 would cover the wooden docks, what would be the number that would cover the concrete docks?
If we left in enough for roughly the 7 or 8
At
boats.
52,000 apiece?
Yeah, it actually.
Almost 400,000.
No, it's 174,522, because we'd only need 3 of them.
But does that cover boats under 30 feet?
No,
Okay.
What would, is it, can you tell us what it would cost to cover boats under 30 feet? Include boats under 30 feet?
I would say Tom's right, the original of $465,000, which would buy us 8 60-foot concrete docks.
And then we have to hire a crane operator to come and take them in and out every day.
They would
Talking a
they-
$550,000
Yeah.
job.
So I think
Okay,
we're going to go with wooden. I think.
That's a tough ask.
I know.
So, okay, I get it. Thank you for explaining.
And-
So are we going to make a motion to allow Tom this
I
money?
think so, but Mike had one
Just,
more comment.
just for Barbara,
Yeah.
I think the timing issue is if docks get destroyed late winter,
This one, like late.
yeah.
Or any
next-
winter.
Or any winter,
Okay.
and we were to buy the docks to replace them,
Yep.
it's a 6-month build on the purchased docks.
So what I suggest, if I could, Mr. Chairman, we order them up, get them in, and then in October, we order another 4.
Okay.
Okay, so you have a spare few in some trashy ones that you can fix to get us through.
Okay.
It's got to be a 2-step process. We can't do it all at once.
Right, okay.
Okay,
That way we
so,
can get it done.
Yeah, okay.
okay, so everyone, including admin, tell me if this is the right motion. Okay, so I move that we direct the town administrator to add $180,000 to the repair and maintenance line in the capital improvement budget for the purpose of
Repairs and maintenance to the marina.
repairs and maintenance to the marina.
Right, that way it's a little broad.
And to
Second.
direct the, yeah, and could I just add something and direct the town administrator and harbor master to consider and decide on the best means for these repairs?
Second.
And Ryan had a question.
Ryan?
No, I had seconded
Oh, I'm sorry.
earlier.
I'm sorry, Ryan. I thought you had your hand up for something else. My apologies.
So
In that case, roll call vote.
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, aye. Passes 4-0 with 1 absence.
There's only one more item left, Mr. Chair, and that is, Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second,
Roll call vote.
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, aye.
Oh, that was the right motion. Okay.